Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, May 8th, 2018. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam President. President Breed.
Here.
Breed present. Supervisor Cohen. Cohen not present. Supervisor Fewer. Fewer present. Supervisor Kim. Kim present. Supervisor Peskin.
Present.
Peskin present. Supervisor Ronan. Ronan present. Supervisor Safai. Safai not present. Supervisor Sheehy. Sheehy present. Supervisor Stephanie. Stephanie present. Supervisor Tang.
Present.
Tang present. Supervisor Yee. Yee present. Madam President, you have a quorum.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any communications?
There are none to report, Madam President.
Okay, colleagues, we have the meeting minutes for approval for the meeting of April 3rd, 2018. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? Moved by Supervisor Peskin, seconded by Supervisor Sheehy. Colleagues, can we take that without objection? Without objection, those meeting minutes will pass after public comment. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Special order at 2 p.m. is the appearance by the Honorable Mayor Mark Farrell. No questions were submitted from the eligible supervisors of the odd districts. The mayor may address the board for up to 5 minutes.
Welcome, Mr. Mayor. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to be back here for question time. So today I wanted to speak briefly during my few minutes about how we're helping our city plan for an uncertain economic future. For the past 7 years, as we all know, our city's enjoyed unparalleled economic growth, the likes of which San Francisco has never seen before. We've added nearly 190,000 jobs since 2010, and our unemployment rate has dropped from nearly double digits to under 3%, one of the best rates in country and the lowest in San Francisco's history. Since the Great Recession, our general fund revenue has grown by over $1.9 billion, helping us provide more vital public services and programs that our residents depend on. Additionally, we have wisely built up our budget reserves to protect against the next economic downturn. 7 years ago, our reserves available for economic stabilization amounted to just under $40 million, which was just 1.4% of our general fund revenue. Since then, our reserves have grown by over $400 million, which is now 9.6% of our general fund, just under our 10% goal. Across every sector, from tourism and hospitality to manufacturing, healthcare, finance, technology, and small business, our city's economic standing has never been stronger. But we also know that this growth can't last forever. It's simply unsustainable, and we'd be irresponsible to believe and behave otherwise. Because while we're in the midst of an unprecedented economic growth, the legacy of the Great Recession looms large. Between 2008 and 2010, San Francisco lost 50,000 jobs, and unemployment reached almost double digits. As a city, we were forced to reduce critical services, everything from muni service to library hours to street repairs and health services impacted by the last recession. As public officials, we have a duty to prepare for the next economic downturn. Just like we have to plan to ensure that our buildings are seismically safe in the event of a disaster, we have to prepare our economy to be ready in the event of an economic disaster. One of our major threats, of course, comes from the current White House. We're dealing with an extremely volatile federal administration that plays very fast and loose with fiscal policy and has shown no indication that it will support local government when those policies backfire. So that's why today I'm pleased to announce the next step in our city's economic resiliency plan. Mayor Lee established a framework for this first-in-the-nation plan back in 2016, and today we're announcing significant progress in our efforts to ensure San Francisco is prepared for the next economic downturn. As a result of the work carried out through the economic resiliency plan, we have now established detailed recession scenarios and the impacts they would have on our city. To understand how best to recover from a recession, we need to know exactly what kind of effect it would have on our city. For example, a severe downturn in the tech sector would result in the loss of more than 54,000 jobs and an unemployment rate over 9% once again. Even the mildest scenario would result in a loss of more than 15,000 jobs and an unemployment rate of over 6%. With this kind of data, we can develop targeted and efficient recovery strategies. Along with the recession scenarios, our economic resiliency plan has identified key economic factors to indicate when a recession appears imminent. We have established a cadre of local, regional, and national trends to watch, including numbers related to personal income tax revenues, gross receipt filings, commercial vacancy rates, and stock prices, among many other factors. When these figures hit certain economic thresholds, it will indicate that we need to take action as a city. We're going great lengths to ensure that we collect the information necessary to predict a recession. And now we need a group of professionals to monitor and act according to this data. That is why I issued an executive directive today, establishing a group of qualified city staffers which will observe economic trends and develop short and long-term mitigation strategies to ensure a prompt, robust recovery from the next recession. This group will be comprised of the city controller, the city economist, the city administrator, the mayor's budget director, and the director of the Office of Economic and Workforce Development. I'm directing the group to submit concrete, ready-to-go mitigation strategies by September 1st of this year. I'm also directing all relevant city departments to support this group in the planning and implementation of these policies. This unprecedented level of economic prosperity will only last for so long, and our fiscal responsibility is clear. Earlier this year, Moody awarded San Francisco its highest possible credit rating and the highest rating in city history. As budget chair of the Board of Supervisors for over 4 years, I was proud to craft a number of financial policies that contributed to Moody's report along with Mayor Lee. I am proud to see him through as mayor. We can't rest on our laurels. We can't be complacent as a city. We may stumble, we may fall, but we will rise again after the next recession and come back stronger, healthier, and better with these policies. Thanks, everyone, for your time.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, let's go to the consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam President. Items 1 through 6 are on consent. These items are considered to be routine. If a member objects, an item may be removed and considered separately.
Roll call vote.
On items 1 through 6, Supervisor Ronan. Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai. Safai, aye. Supervisor Sheehy. Sheehy, aye. Supervisor Stephanie. Stephanie, aye. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Breed.
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Cohen.
Aye.
Cohen, aye. Supervisor Fewer. Fewer, aye. Supervisor Kim. Kim, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. There are 11 ayes.
Those items are adopted unanimously. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Item 7 is an ordinance to amend the building code to revise the city's Slope Protection Act by clarifying the scope, updating the map references, mandating review by the Department of Building Inspection's Structural Advisory Committee, and reenacting and modifying a paragraph in the scope section regarding the type of proposed construction that triggers application of the act, and to affirm the CEQA determination and to make the appropriate findings.
Same house. Oh, Supervisor Peskin.
Thank you, Madam President, colleagues. When this item was before the board 2 weeks ago, following a unanimous approval by the Building Inspection Commission and a favorable recommendation from the Land Use Committee, we were still grappling with some concerns raised relative to the scope of applicability and concerns that this might dramatically increase the workload of our Department of Building Inspection such that it would be difficult for them to comply with it. And as a baseline principle, my endeavor with these revisions that I'm going to propose and have been handed out to all of you is to ensure that development projects proposed for sites on seismic or landfill hazard zones receive the necessary level of review to ensure that it's really not if, it's when a catastrophic earthquake hits San Francisco, our structures will withstand that disaster. And I'm pleased that over the last 2 weeks, my staff, I particularly want to acknowledge Lee Hepner and DBI staff, have arrived at a compromise which vests in the department discretion to send a project to a higher level of peer review or review by a structural advisory committee at DBI while preserving a paper trail and a set of objective criteria reflecting why a certain project was subject to a higher level of review. These criteria are reflected on the top of page 5 of the amendments distributed to all of you, beginning at line 2, and include the ground slope, the soil type at the project site, geologic conditions, history of landsides in the vicinity of the project, the nature of the planned excavation and construction, proximity and type of adjacent construction, the effect that the construction activity related to the proposed project will have on safety and stability. I can read all of the amendments in the record if you like. They are not substantive, and with that, colleagues, DBI staff is on hand to answer any questions or satisfy any lingering doubts, but I believe that we are in agreement, and I'd respectfully move the amendments before you and ask for your support of this ordinance as amended.
Supervisor Peskin has made a motion to amend, seconded by Supervisor Safai. Colleagues, can we take the amendments without objection? Without objection, the amendments pass. Supervisor Safai.
I just want to add a couple of notes here. I want to really appreciate the hard work that Supervisor Peskin and his staff did. This is an important piece of legislation as it pertains to a city that is constantly under the threat of unsafe ground, earthquakes, and other things that we need to be really cautious how we proceed with projects that are on slopes. I appreciate the amendments that are made. I know there was a lot of thought that went into this, and so I just wanted to be added as a co-sponsor.
Thank you, Supervisor Safai. Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Supervisor Peskin, thank you. Please add me. I think this is tremendous work that you and your staff have undertaken, and I am delighted to be added as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other names on the roster, colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call?
And Supervisor Sheehy asked to be added as a co-sponsor.
Thank you. And seeing no other names on the roster, colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the ordinance as amended passes unanimously on the first reading. Next item, please.
Item 8 is a resolution to authorize the filing of an application for funding assigned to the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, committing any necessary matching funds, stating assurance to complete the projects, and to authorize Public Works to accept and expend approximately $19.3 million in One Bay Area grant funds awarded through the MTC.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 9 is a resolution to retroactively authorize the Director of Public Works to accept and expend approximately $2.7 million from the United States Department of Transportation Federal Highway Administration for state financial assistance under the California Disaster Assistance Act.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 10 is a resolution to retroactively authorize the Recreation and Park Department to accept and expend an approximate $3.3 million grant from the State of California Department of Housing and Community Development for the period of November 22nd, 2017 through June 30th, 2019 to fund 4 parks and community center projects.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call items 11 through 13 together.
Items 11 through 13 are 3 resolutions to retroactively authorize the Office of the District Attorney to accept and expend grant monies from the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services for item 11 in the amount of approximately $1 million for the Victim Witness Assistance Program October 1st, 2017 through September 20th, 2018. For item 12, $700,000 grant for the Elder Abuse Program July 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2019. And for item 13, approximately $307,000 for the Innovative Response to Marginalized Victims Program January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2019.
Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you. I'd like to be added to these 3 items. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other names on the roster, colleagues, can we take these items, same house, same call? Without objection, the resolutions are adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 14 is an ordinance to amend the planning code to allow the owner of premises leased to the city for a public safety-related use to resume a pre-existing self-storage use after the city vacates the property without regard to whether that self-storage use was established with benefit of permit, to affirm the CEQA determination and to make the appropriate findings.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the ordinance passes unanimously on the first reading. Next item.
Item 15 is a resolution to respond to the recent proposal to expand the private marina located in Clipper Cove at Treasure Island and to reaffirm San Francisco's commitment to public recreation, education, environmental protection, preservation of open public space, and social equity.
Supervisor Kim.
Thank you. Colleagues, I am asking for a one-week continuance on item number 15. This is a resolution that concerns the environmental protection, public recreation, and youth education at Clipper Cove. And for those of you that do not know Clipper Cove, it is a public space on Treasure Island that has a proposal for a marina development. After the passage of the resolution and strong support from the community, including the Sierra Club and others, the stakeholders have agreed to sit down to see if they can further compromise on an outcome for the marina development over the course of the next week. I also want to thank Supervisor Aaron Peskin for assisting with the mediation. No matter the outcome of these negotiations, I am committed to moving this forward and have the Board of Supervisors on record to protect this valuable and irreplaceable public asset. So I do want to also recognize Supervisors Fewer and Sheehy for co-sponsoring this resolution as well. Colleagues, I'm asking for a continuance to next week, May 15th.
Supervisor Kim has made a motion to continue this item 1 week to May 15, 2018, seconded by Supervisor Safai. Colleagues, can we take that without objection? Without objection, this item will be continued for 1 week. Madam Clerk, let's go to roll call for introductions.
First member to introduce new business, Supervisor Ronan.
Yes, thank you, colleagues. Today, I am proud to introduce an ordinance that would create an Office of Sexual Harassment and Assault Response and Prevention. Sexual violence is a national epidemic. 1 in 2 women and 1 in 6 men report experiencing sexual violence. With the powerful Me Too movement, thousands of survivors have been inspired to break the silence around abuse. So frankly, I wasn't surprised to hear that so many women here in San Francisco go through this horrific experience. But what did shock me was to hear about the appalling failures on the part of our city systems in responding to these victims. I have heard enough stories that it's clear that these are not just a few isolated incidents. There is a pattern of negligence and mistreatment that is abusive towards women. From hospital workers sending a pregnant woman home to heal after disclosing rape during a checkup, to a police officer saying that both parties involved needed to take responsibility, as if there is no difference between victims and assailants, we see departments unable to keep San Franciscans safe from sexual violence. These are our city employees who are blaming victims for their own assaults, disregarding the severity of these rapes, and denying survivors their right to an objective investigation. But enough is enough. I am introducing this legislation today to ensure that there is a dedicated team to oversee departmental accountability when sexual harassment and sexual assault cases are disregarded by the city, and to also help survivors find solutions that restore their dignity and their sense of safety. I am creating this department with the goal of remedying complaints about city department failures, promoting transparency through information sharing, and developing policies to improve systemic response to sexual assault and sexual harassment in San Francisco. The office would have a team of 3 employees. 1 staff member would be tasked with interacting with sexual assault and sexual harassment survivors and their advocates to receive complaints and navigate survivors through their options for a remedy. 1 staff member will collaborate with city departments and community agencies to gather data, understand current patterns of violence on the ground, and produce yearly reports with policy recommendations. And the office director will provide mediation between survivors and city department staff and written guidance to remedy mistreatment and objectively proceed with cases. The director will also serve as the public spokesperson and liaison with the Board of Supervisors and the mayor. I want to thank so much the survivors that have come forth to bravely share their stories and partner with my office to prevent more survivors from going through this nightmare. Many of these women testified during a hearing 2 weeks ago, and then again today at a rally before this meeting. I want to thank all the community-based organizations and advocates for collaborating with my office on this legislation and for doing this critical and hard work every day. And I want to give a very, very special thanks to Carolina Morales of my office, who's put her heart and soul and incredible expertise into this legislation and is truly responsible for making it possible and happen. And last but not least, I want to thank all my colleagues on the Board of Supervisors for unanimously co-sponsoring this legislation. What a rare thing to introduce a piece of legislation that's unanimously supported, and what a strong message we are sending as a board today by doing that. It is an honor for me to serve on a majority woman Board of Supervisors and to stand together to ensure accountability for the survivors who have been wronged twice, once by their assailant and once again by our broken system. And it's an honor to stand next to our male allies as well. I look forward to the work of this office to begin hopefully this summer. Hopefully we can move it as quickly as possible, and for true accountability and transparency to be the norm for survivors in San Francisco. And the rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Safai.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I have 2 items today. One I will re-refer on. I'm co-sponsoring with Supervisor Katie Tang. But the first one is a request. I've asked the city attorney to begin drafting legislation as it revolves around some of these emerging transportation technologies that we see, in particular the scooters that we see on the streets. Many of the people enjoy the privileges of being able to drop off and pick up these scooters wherever they may be. And we're happy to have new industries in San Francisco that can move people around and get them out of cars. But when we think about how those scooters are picked up and dropped off, we often forget about the workers that are actually doing that work. And in these cases, we're talking about people that are being paid $5 to $12 a scooter to pick up the scooters, recharge them, haul them away often, and bring them back without any training, without any safety standards, and without a fair wage rate. So we've asked the city attorney to look into the idea of adding a provision in the prevailing wage code to protect these workers and have them fall under that category, and they're investigating that. We've also reached out to the SFMTA, asking them that when they do issue the permit, asking them to amend that permit to require prevailing wage as well as a labor harmony provision be added to that. The second item I will re-refer on, but colleagues, I hope that the fruit of Mr. Givner and his team's labor in the city attorney's office provide something and a pathway to protect workers in our city. These companies often are extremely capitalized. We're talking about millions and millions of dollars in startup money, some of whom have $25 million for one company that just emerged within the last few months. And recently we found out that Lyft, which is capitalized at over $2 billion, is going to get into the scooter business as well. If they have that level of cash and that level of capitalization, they need to be thinking about the workers that are actually providing the service and making it accessible to all San Franciscans and all San Francisco neighborhoods. And we're not asking it to be limited to scooters, but we want to look at all the different forms of emerging transportation in the city and protect the workers as it relates to prevailing wage. The rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Sheehy.
Yes, today I have an in memoriam for Sunny Wolf, a founding member of Dykes on Bikes, who passed away before she got a chance to actually lead Dykes on Bikes as a community grand marshal at the upcoming LGBT Pride Parade. Wolf, an Air Force medic who came to San Francisco after discharge, was among a small group of lesbians who decided to lead the parade on motorcycle. They moved to the front because, frankly, they didn't want their bikes to overheat while they're in the back, idling, and so they revved the Harleys and Indians. They led the way. When they first started, it was obviously just a handful, But with each Pride Parade, Dykes on Bikes, the contingent became bigger and bigger. There have been more than 400 riders in some parades, and always leading the way for 40 years was Wolf in her leather vest, bearing the triangular Dykes on Bikes logo and chaps. In fact, this has become an international phenomenon with 16 chapters and thousands of members throughout the United States, Britain, and Australia. Dykes on Bikes are always at the head of the pack when there is a parade. And the Dykes on Bikes has been this vigorous, vibrant, unequivocal expression of our fight for liberation. Going back to 1974, when we really didn't have rights, and even San Francisco was not a safe place for us. You know, I think that they're a living symbol of the strength of our community and the strength of our resistance. Wolf is survived by Dykes on Bikes around the world, and the rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Stephanie. Okay, thank you. Supervisor Tang.
Thank you, colleagues. Today I am very excited about this piece of legislation I'm about to introduce. Despite many exciting pieces of legislation, I think that this is my favorite in my whole entire career because I am trying to attract more small businesses to District 4 and partnering with my colleague, Supervisor Safai, to also bring this pilot program to District 11 as well. So today we are in conjunction introducing legislation to create a small business attraction program for Districts 4 and 11. And essentially what it would do is eliminate the notification process for certain types of already permitted uses within our 2 districts. And of course, we welcome other supervisors to join along if you'd like. And the beauty of this legislation is that it still allows each individual supervisor and district to respect the zoning that you have in your current neighborhoods. So for example, if there is a permitted use going to another permitted use, then there would be no requirement for neighborhood notification. Now, some may wonder, well, why should we take away neighborhood notification? For one, I would say that the vast majority of projects that have to go through, whether it's even a conditional use process or a change of use process, that they are, for the vast majority of the time, almost always approved. And then secondly, just the length of time that these businesses spend trying to open up shop. It would shave down maybe at least 3 to 6 months in the permitting time. And for our neighborhoods, it could mean the difference between a business locating in our neighborhood or not. Now, we've had many hearings at this Board of Supervisors at committees about storefront vacancies. And so I know that Supervisor Safai and I are both very, very interested in solving for this issue of storefront vacancies, of the emerging, well, it's really taken over the world already, but the e-commerce where everyone is shopping online. And we want to preserve our brick and mortar stores in our neighborhoods. And I would say that almost every other week, we are now getting calls from people who want to locate in at least District 4. And so I'm very excited by that enthusiasm and energy, but a lot of times people are turned off by how long and how onerous the permitting process is. So I really hope that this will be a great tool for us. And again, I invite other supervisors to join us in this effort. One thing I will note is that if there are uses that still require conditional use or an alcohol permit, liquor license permit, live entertainment, or if there are programs already in place citywide, such as a cannabis program that we have, or for massage uses, that those would still require neighborhood notification in addition to formula retail. So these are really those uses such as restaurants and retail that we aren't getting in our neighborhoods that we would really like to see occupy our vacant storefronts faster. So I really hope that we'll be able to move this forward, and then maybe we could turn it over to my co-sponsor, Supervisor Safai, who asked to re-refer on this item. Oh, and sorry, really quick, I really want to thank Menika Mohan for my office, who was the brainchild of this legislation and really helped to bring to light the goals I wanted to achieve legislatively. So thank you, Menika.
Supervisor Safai.
Thank you. Supervisor Tang, thank you. I think sometimes like minds work alike, and so we were actually working on this item in parallel without knowing until we to talk to one another or had our staff talk to one another. This is really exciting. I know some parts of San Francisco don't necessarily have some of the barriers that we are, but I think every district in the city understands the barriers small businesses face when they're trying to open up, particularly when they're locating in a space that might have been a previous use that wasn't the exact use that they're intending to. So what motivated me was when I came into office about a year and a half ago, we had a woman that I met when I was going door to door, and she said to me, my dream is to open up a cafe on Mission Street. And so the location that she found happened to be a spot that was a woman's clothing store, but had been used actually as a front for illegal gambling and after-hours place of ill repute, for lack of a better word. And so, so that was shut down, thanks to our Captain McFadden, over a series of time. But then she came in, found this location, and was ready to open up a cafe. Signed the lease, and believed that she was about to open within a month, but found out that because it was a woman's clothing store and she was opening up a cafe, they had to go through this change of use and notification process. It has added literally a year to her process, and she will be opening up this month. Her husband is a teacher. They're a local family. They live within walking distance. It's exactly the kind of business that we want to encourage to see open in a corridor like mine that has an extremely high rate of vacancies and empty storefronts. So I'm very happy today to stand with Supervisor Tang on this pilot effort. We would like to see uses that are either permitted, principally permitted, or that would still have to go through the conditional use process, as many of the categories that we've defined. So this is about sending a signal to other businesses, some of whom were downstairs that I was recruiting at our pop-up in the South Light Court, and saying, we have some empty storefronts. We have some places of business. We have a cheaper price per square foot than many other parts of the city. We want to make it easier for you and more timely. So we also think there's another benefit to this. This will free up planning department staff time, and I know Supervisor Ronan and I have talked about this, as many of my other colleagues. We want to free up that staff time to facilitate the building of affordable housing and housing in our city. And so by freeing up the planners that would be reviewing some of these projects, this will now allow them to focus more on the crisis at hand and our housing crisis in our city. So there's a double benefit for it. It facilitates the process of opening up small businesses, but it also facilitates staff time at the planning department. So we're really excited about this. Colleagues, I hope that you will support this, moving this forward, and we hope that it will expand to other parts of the city. And in fact, Supervisor Peskin and I started a conversation about this, expanding it to other parts of San Francisco, but we wanted to do this, Supervisor Tang and I, in an aggressive way in our own districts, and then look forward to expanding it to other parts of San Francisco. The rest I submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Madam President, it being 2:35, we will return to introductions, and I'll yield the floor back to you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, today we are celebrating Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, and we have a number of special guests here in the chamber to honor. Each board member has chosen someone special for their work and everything that they contribute to the quality of life here in the city and county of San Francisco. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Supervisor Norman Yee to introduce our special commendations, and we will proceed at that point.
Thank you, President Bree. Colleagues, in 1978, President Jimmy Carter signed into law declaring May 4th to the 11th as the Asian and Pacific Islanders American Week. But in 1991, President George H.W. Bush signed into law declaring the entire month of May as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. Historically, the APA community has contributed greatly to the social, economic, and cultural development of our country and our city. Yet, their contributions were not always recognized, and they have faced significant discrimination over the years. APA immigrants have worked alongside the Irish to build the Transcontinental Railroad, labored in canneries on our coast, toiled in our laundry service industry, restaurants, nail salons, nurtured our young children, in child care centers, care for sick patients as nurses and healthcare workers, all to improve the quality of life for their San Francisco residents and neighbors. They have also been public servants such as our late Mayor Ed Lee. My own family is part of this legacy. My grandfather immigrated from China to San Francisco in the late 1800s. My father, who was born in China, was a paper son, so he had to go through this whole act of dealing with the Exclusion Act during that time. My parents owned a grocery store in the Castro neighborhood in the 50s and the 60s. I'm a proud son of a hardworking immigrant family. There are countless others who face great hardships trying every day to make a better life for themselves and their families today in the U.S. Let us remember that unless what unites us and not divide us, we are all immigrants of this country at some point in our family's heritage. As San Franciscans, let's stand by our immigrant brothers and sisters, and today and during this month of May and the APA Heritage Month, let us celebrate and remember the many contributions of our Asian Pacific American brothers and sisters. As part of recognizing each district's honorees today, my office reached out to the Center of Asian American Media, CAM, in anticipation of their annual film, food, and music festival. This year, CAM Fest is generously giving a pair of free tickets to each of the honorees to attend the opening night gala at the Castro Theater this Thursday, featuring the documentary on Congressman Norman Mineta's life. In honor of the APA Heritage Month, I am so excited that this is the first year CAM Fest, which highlights the diverse talents of the APA filmmaking, music, and culinary community, coincides with APA Heritage Month. I encourage everyone to enjoy the rich offerings provided by CAM Fest, the Public Library, and so many other organizations this month by checking the APA Heritage Foundation website, apasf.org. So before I introduce my honoree, I would like to bring up, if you are here, Claudine Jung, are you here? Come on up. It seems like this is tradition for Claudine to address our chamber during this month. Claudine.
Vice Yi, members of the board, it's one of our community's happiest month of the year, the month of May. I want to thank Supervisor Yi for reading into the record about the history of the month. Indeed, this year we celebrate, join the rest of the country in celebrating the 40th anniversary of this particular month, where we try to make sure that we celebrate the history and accomplishment of Asian Pacific Americans in the San Francisco Bay Area. Supervisor Yi mentioned about CAMFest. I also want to say that on Thursday, during the opening night of CAMFest, we will be honoring former Congressman and former Secretary of Commerce and Transportation Norman Mineta for his work 40 years ago. It was because of his leadership at the time, back in 1978, that today we are celebrating the 40th anniversary. So indeed, we want to encourage everybody to attend CAMFest for the whole month. And because it is the 40th anniversary, the APA Heritage Foundation has teamed up with CAMFest, the Asian Art Museum, the San Francisco Public Library, and the Asian Pacific Fund in providing a month-long of celebration activities. We have actually compiled a calendar of events on our website, as Supervisor Yi mentioned, and here are also some copies, and we would like to leave it for the public. So please enjoy and learn more about the diversity within the Asian culture. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudine. So right now I want to introduce my honoree for this important month. Today, I'd like to introduce immigration attorney and partner at Manami Takaki and Minette Kwok. Minette has overcome what I'll read a few things about you before you get to speak. Minette has over 20 years of experience securing visas for immigrants who work as entrepreneurs, engineers, and filmmakers. Minette's desire to work in the immigration law stemmed from her parents' experience immigrating to the U.S. in 1946. While studying at UC Berkeley in the 70s, Minette's passion for civil rights and ethnic pride grew as a result of the many campus protests, especially during the Vietnam War. She later became the executive director of the Asian Legal Services Outreach, leading a team of attorneys advocating for immigration and housing rights. She credits her experience at Apollo as part of her inspiration for her to pursue her law degree. In addition to her daily work at Manami Tagaki law firm, where she is a partner, she serves on the National Board of Trustees for the American Immigration Council, advising on national policy affecting immigrants seeking to work and contribute their skills in this country. Recently, she successfully represented the State Bar of California before the California Supreme Court in the matter of Sergio Garcia, an undocumented immigrant who applied for the California State Bar, but was almost prevented from doing so due to his immigration status. Thanks to Minette and her team's advocacy on his behalf, he was ultimately admitted to the California State Bar. The state Supreme Court's decision followed a bill that Governor Brown signed last fall, allowing the State Bar to admit undocumented residents who meet all requirements to practice law. And on January 1st, 2018, California became the first state in the country to license undocumented immigrants as attorneys. Minette was quoted as saying, "Whether it's reuniting families or working to grant refuge or safe haven to someone who's been persecuted, or it's someone who wants to this great job or wants to carry out their vision for a business, immigration law is really about possibilities," she says. That's the part that is compelling for me. That's quote unquote. In the community, Minette also serves on the advisory board for the Center for Gender and Refugee Studies at the University of California, at Hastings School of Law, as well as on the board of the directors of the Asian Pacific Islander Legal Outreach, which provides services to those facing domestic violence and human trafficking. Not only does Minette work on behalf of immigrants daily, she mentors younger APA attorneys. One of her former mentees is Ivy Lee, Chief of Staff to Jane Kim's office. And this is what Ivy Lee said: "When I was a young attorney trying to understand immigration law and policy on the American Immigration Lawyers Association's regional board, Minette helped me demystify processes and made me feel very welcome under pressure. She always acted with great poise and calm." Minette is a leading national expert on immigration policy and is a frequent speaker at the regional and national conferences and panels. For 3 straight years, from 2014 to 2016, Minette has been selected as one of the top 50 women Northern California super lawyers. That's quite an accomplishment. From 2004 through 2017, she's been named a Northern California super lawyer by Law and Politics magazine, an industry-wide poll which identifies by peer review the top 5% attorneys in the field. So she actually has 1 million of these type of honor distinctions, but I'll let her talk about herself. Minette, today we recognize your commitment to advocating on behalf of all immigrants, regardless of nationality, and your continued advocacy to make sure America remains a land of opportunity for immigrants from all over the globe who wish to use their talents and skills to better the lives for their families and their communities. This is Manette Kwok. Give her a warm welcome.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Yee, and to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. This is quite an honor for me and quite unexpected. So I appreciate the recognition, especially since so many of my colleagues and friends in the city are so involved and so active in the Asian community and have done so much. They should be standing here with me or instead of me. I've been practicing immigration law for close to 30 years, and I have to say that the last year and a half has been by far the hardest. Every day we face an immigration service and a mindset that is mean-spirited and unfair, inconsistent, anti-immigrant in the way that they approach the law. And it has been discouraging and a struggle and stunning sometimes, the kind of decisions that they're making, be it at the airport or at the border or at the consulate or in the courts or in detention centers. The lack of humanity that we're seeing is something that I never thought I would witness. At the same time, I'm so grateful to be an immigration attorney and to have the years of experience that I've now accumulated, because our clients and our communities need us. People are leaving, people are being denied entry, people are being told to leave or being deported, and it's a really sad state of affairs, but together with 14,000 other immigration attorneys nationwide, we're fighting back and we're servicing as many people as we can. I want to thank the city for being a leader nationally in all the policies that the Board of Supervisors have taken over the years, be it in the commissions that you've formed, the positions you've taken on immigrant rights, and your position on sanctuary. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, and congratulations. And colleagues, I just want to remind each of you that we do have 10 honorees. It's going to take us some time to get through. So if we could please keep our remarks to a minimum, and so that we give the honoree a chance to talk as long as they'd like. And so at this point, I'd like to call up my honoree, Alex Aquino, to come forward, please. Alex. No, take your time, Alex. Take your time. I was kidding. Come on, come on. Born and raised in San Francisco, Alex has been an entrepreneur in the lifestyle clothing, events, production, and marketing industry in San Francisco for over 20 years. He lives in the Haight-Ashbury community in my district and has been a business owner there for over 6 years. Some people may know his shop, which is now online, Black Scale. There used to be really, really long lines to get in there. Not only has he put on amazing entertainment events with partners like Live Nation and Golden Voice, but he has been a tried and true community leader. He's a board member member of the Haight-Ashbury Merchants Association, a merchant liaison for the Haight-Ashbury Neighborhood Council, and vice president and on the board of Taking It to the Streets, which is a nonprofit program based in the Haight-Ashbury community that helps transitional AIDS youth live their lives through workforce development and provides housing. The youth in the program actually clean up the Haight Street area, and it's been an incredible program that has had much success in our community. They have done a tremendous job, and Alex is also a board member of Project Reckless, an amazing nonprofit in the Bayview that provides at-risk teens with opportunities through restoration of incredible old-school cars. Here, they learn valuable mechanic and technical skills while getting mentorship opportunities and support. And lastly, Alex was the first ever producer to ever take on sponsoring the infamous 420 event in Golden Gate Park. Many of you know the challenges of 420 every single year, the issues with traffic and safety and cleanliness and just the quality of life. Over 15,000 visitors from all over the world flood into city to participate in this unsanctioned holiday. And my constituents have had to pay the price. And every year after 420, our parks and our streets are trashed. And over 5 years ago, we decided to do something different. We stepped up and we made changes to make the event a lot more safe and clean up. But the city was fronting the bill for those expenses. And then last year, Alex said, look, I want to be a part of making this a better event for the entire community. So he stepped up and found sponsors to help cover private security, fencing, porta potties, food vendors, entertainment, and more, and has been an amazing partner in helping to make sure that this event is safe for everyone and it's a lot better for the community. We are so grateful for all the work that you continue to do to support this amazing city. I know you say it's because you're native and you love San Francisco, but we appreciate you and your hard work because you don't have to do it, but you choose to do it anyway because of your commitment to the people of the city and county of San Francisco. So Alex, you're a true treasure, and we are honored to have you here today. Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you. I'm honored to be up here with all the rest of the people today. I just want to keep it short. Thank you, the board and President London Reed. Thank you.
Oh, that's really short. See, colleagues, that's how you do it. Short and sweet. Next up, Supervisor Cohen.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, are you excited? Because I'm going to introduce you to a wonderful person. All right, put your hands together and get ready to welcome Miss John Ina. Come on down. Now, during this very important month of May, I will be honest with you, I definitely go out of my way to try to uplift the PI in Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month. I think too often in this town, the Samoans, the Tongans, Hawaiians get overlooked. And so this is my opportunity to highlight and uplift a segment of San Francisco that deserves absolute recognition and who I have tremendous respect and admiration for. And in the Samoan culture, it's called alofas. Did I say it right?
Yes, you did.
All right. Well, thank you for the love back there. Thank you for the alofas. Well, talofa, everyone. I want to say hello, and I want to introduce you to colleagues. This is John Ina, who is my nominee and my celebrant for the APA Heritage Month. Miss Ina is currently the director of the Pacific Islander Youth Alliance and Samoan Community Development Center, also known as SCDC. Now, it's tucked away back in the back of Sunnydale, but it's got a huge presence in the Viz Valley community. It's incredible what SCDC has been doing. It's a nonprofit organization in the district with the mission of improving the quality of lives for Samoans and Pacific Islanders. Miss Ena has facilitated youth programs and innovative cultural workshops for the last 15 years. You talk about an unsung hero. 15 years she's been in the background doing the work. For almost 2 decades, she has also coordinated the Pacific Island Youth Alliance Leadership Summer Program. This summer program provides youth from all over San Francisco the opportunity to learn about the Samoan culture through dance and music. And if you've ever been to a Samoan event, they always have food. Very good food. Also, Miss Ena has been a trailblazer in the Pacific Islander LGBTQ community. With strong bonds that Miss Ena has cultivated throughout the years, it's reflected by how many community members lovingly refer to her as Auntie John. Do we have any community members here with us today? Stand up and give some love. Stand up. Give Auntie John some love, please. Thank you for being here. Her mentorship has supported and inspired many young minds in the Samoan community. It is with great pleasure that I provide this certificate of honor to Miss John Ena. Congratulations and thank you for all your hard work. And I also want to give one shout out to happy birthday, Neo Vea Vea. Happy birthday to you, honey. We love you. All right, Auntie, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Cohen, as well as your fellow colleagues, all of our supervisors on the board. I want to keep this short and sweet as well. I'm very honored to be recognized by Supervisor Cohen and as well as all of you here. I just want to give a shout out to the Samoan Community Development Center, because I think if I was not working there, that I would not be recognized as I am today. So I want to give a shout out to all of the staff members that work at the Samoan Community Development Center. As Ms. Supervisor Cohen had pointed out earlier, that we're really small, hidden in the Visitation Valley District. And so I want to say thank you to you all. And I especially want to give special thanks to our executive director to be able to work beside someone who encourages me to continue the work, even with all the hate that may be out there. And so for 17 years, I had the privilege to stand by her side and partner with her, as well as other city agencies, to help bring services to our Polynesian community and Pacific Islander community. So thank you so much, Ms. Patsy Tito, and then a special thank to all my family members that I didn't tell about this event, and that the Samoan pipeline just kind of went down, and then they're all here. So thank you to all of my families, and especially my mothers that are here. God bless us all. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would be remiss if I did not give an opportunity for Patsy Tito just to stand up and just get some love, because this is an incredible leader. Also an unsung matriarch in the community. Thank you very much to everyone.
Congratulations again, Auntie John. Next up is Supervisor Fewer.
Thank you very much, President Bree. It is my pleasure today to recognize Raj Desai, an accomplished engineer and human rights advocate who is also a Richmond District resident. I have had the pleasure of knowing Raj most of my life, and I'm proud to honor such an extraordinary man during Asian Pacific American Heritage Month and pay tribute to his legacy today. Born in 1928, Raj recalls an early interest in math and science and was encouraged by his family to pursue engineering. His choice of structural design was confirmed upon witnessing earthquake damage to the city of Mumbai, where he earned his Bachelor of Engineering degree at the University of Bombay in 1948. Raj went on to earn his Master's of Sciences at UC Berkeley in 1953 before going into practice. He formed Raj Desai Associates Structural Engineers in 1974 and retired from engineering in 1998. His projects through the 1960s, 70s, and 80s dot the Bay Area and Nevada and include residences, multi-story office and commercial buildings, parking structures, airports, malls, and community centers of wood, concrete, and steel. Other projects include the PT&T building in Oakland, Pacific School of Religion in Berkeley, the Valley Bank office building in Reno, remodel of the Recon Post Office Heritage Building in San Francisco, and a range of multi-story ductile concrete movement frame office buildings and steel buildings in the city, San Jose, and across California. Raj met his wife Helen at International House, Berkeley, and they were married in 1954. They have 3 children, one of whom is a dear friend of mine, and 7 grandchildren who share a multi-generation tradition of attending the University of California. Raj has received many awards for his contributions in structural engineering and has served as a fellow officer and or active member of various professional organizations. He taught at Laney College in Oakland, served on the San Francisco Human Rights Commission Advisory Board, helped to found Richmond Environment Action that created the first recycling center in San Francisco, and he founded and served as president of the Asian Pacific American Advocates Coalition. In retirement, Raj has turned to volunteering and supporting arts and education, environment, and human rights. Both he and his wife, Helen Crane Desai, were longtime docents at the Asian Art Museum, on the board of the California Institute of Integral Studies, and have contributed financially as well as their time to a variety of important causes. Raj and Helen are devoted leaders and members of a wide range of Indian American and Asian American arts and cultural organizations, as well as several environmental and civil liberty organizations. On a personal note, when I moved into 156 16th Avenue when I was 2 years old in 1959, I became the backyard neighbor of the Desai family. Raj's daughter Monica quickly became my best friend, as her mother would hoist her over the backyard fence to play with me, and my mother would hoist me over to their fence to play with her. Monica and I are still close friends today. I feel like I was raised in the Desai home, spending most of my days after school in their home, and also numerous and regular sleepovers. Raj opened up his home and heart to me, ever generous and kind, always the gentle father who was quite opposite of my own father. When my father passed away 2 days before Christmas when I was 14 years old, their household was the first place I called. And at 7 a.m., Raj answered the phone and was so kind and caring. I have never forgotten it. He and his wife were my first teachers about the importance of being good stewards for our environment and has shaped my commitment to environmental issues. So with deep appreciation for all his good works and accomplishments, it is my honor and pleasure to honor this longtime Richmond District resident and dear friend, Raj Desai. And I believe we also have Dr. Zhu here from the Asian Art Museum, who also knows Raj and Helen very well. And now, Raj, thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to honor you.
Thank you, thank you. What more to say, so I'll make it very simple. First of all, I'll offer my Indian greeting, namaskar, to everyone. And secondly, and I'll end with a short Vedic Sanskrit poem or prayer for 4 lines. And it goes like this. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah. Let all of us be happy. Sarve santu niramaya. Let's all of us have a good health. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. May we all observe what is auspicious and good in life. Ma kaschid dukhabhag bhavet. May we all be free of suffering and pain. Thank you.
Okay, now that the paparazzi is done with their photos, congratulations again. All right, next up is Supervisor Kim.
Thank you. And I would like to bring up an entire family for this commendation. And I want to invite up the Lowe family. Please step up. It is really my distinct honor to honor the Honorable Judge Harry Lowe and his two sons, Larry and Alan Lowe, for Asian Pacific American Heritage Month this year. Judge Harry Lowe, I will start with you. It is really hard to capture everything you have done in your career, in your decades of service both to the city and to our state of California. One of the characteristics of your life's work that I particularly want to showcase is your pioneering advocacy to open the doors of opportunity for people of color, especially your fight to open up careers previously denied to many based on racism and discrimination. You were the first Asian American to serve on the San Francisco Municipal Court. You've served as the Attorney General of the state under Governor Pat Brown. You've served on the First District Court of Appeal under Governor Jerry Brown and served as its presiding judge. And you head the San Francisco Human Rights Commission and was then appointed to chair the San Francisco Police Commission during a turbulent time which saw 4 different individuals as police chief, 2 of them resigning in disgrace. By the way, we do have 2 openings right now on the Police Commission. If you would so choose to return and provide us with your incredible service, I'm sure you have a little bit of time to spare for us still. By the way, this is just a part of your legacy. You're all the first Asian American to serve as California State Insurance Commissioner. You served as 2 terms as the national president of the Chinese American Citizens Alliance. You helped found the first private bilingual school here in San Francisco, the Chinese American International School, and you helped as a board member to support and guide organizations from Laguna Honda Hospital Foundation to California Healthcare Foundation. And the very last thing that I will mention, and by the way, I've left many things out, is that you are also an Emmy winner, which many people may not know, for the work you did as the executive producer of Separate Promises, Broken Dreams, and a documentary on the Chinese Exclusion Act, which I really enjoyed watching. For your legacy for integrity and advocacy for vulnerable communities harmed by discrimination also continues probably your most important legacy, which are your 2 sons, Larry and Alan. Now, many parents who are community activists and organizers and leaders know that it is often very difficult to have your children follow in your footsteps. And in fact, sometimes they go in the other direction. But in this case, your 2 sons truly are already carrying your legacy forward and will continue on so. And I first want to recognize Larry. Not only do you carry on your father's incredible legacy with your own rigorous legal career as the chief legal officer of a global law firm, Orrick, and as an appointee of President Clinton to serve as an arbitrator for the International Center for the Settlement of Investment Dispute. But you also do his advocacy for the community credit in what you do in your spare time. When Alan sent me the list of the organizations that you volunteer for, serve on the board of directors, I knew that I had to specifically highlight your work with the Angel Island Immigration Station. Not many people know that Angel Island, the Angel Island Immigration Center, which is our own Ellis Island of the West, and that it was actually slated for demolition in 1970, but was saved by the Chinese poetry that was discovered carved into the walls of the immigration detention barracks by many who had been detained there for months and years as they waited to get their immigration interview. Especially in today's time, the Angel Island Immigration Station is a much-needed reminder of how immigration policies has been used as a cudgel against certain races and ethnicities and certain nationalities, and how we can never allow that to happen again. And as President Trump talks about a Muslim racial registry, we must remember that this country actually did that already in the 1890s when it passed the Chinese registry with the Chinese Exclusion Act, demanded that Chinese and Chinese American register under a racial registry ban. And here in San Francisco, it was Chinese Americans and the Sixth Company that led the first civil disobedience, asking residents not to sign with the registry, knowing that that was wrong. And it launched thousands of lawsuits filed by Asian Americans for our civil rights. I see I went over my time. This is because this family is so incredible. Ellen, your work as a part of the city family on the Rec and Park Commission is well known here on this board. And I just have to thank you personally as a supervisor of District 6, representing a district with the fewest and smallest parks, for your incredible advocacy for the parks of the South of Market and the Tenderloin, Gene Friend Rec Center, to Bodecker, to Sergeant Macaulay, to Turk and Hyde Mini Park, and recently advocating to recognize our longtime 30-year director at the Gene Park Rec Center, Tim Figueres. You have been a stalwart champion for open space and parks and playgrounds for our most vulnerable residents and for the Chinatown neighborhood as well, places that often don't get advocacy, despite the density of families, children, and seniors. You're also an astounding attorney in your own right, and you have used your expertise from your legal career in land use and real estate to protect and benefit low-income communities of color who desperately want places of respite from their urban surroundings. I won't list all the projects you have forward, but I do want to thank you for your work in the role of the iHotel. 114 units of senior affordable housing, a living memory and preservation of the historic movement to preserve San Francisco neighborhoods that originated for the original iHotel, and also for your work in preserving 665 Clay Street, one of the first sites of our Ellis Act eviction battles in the late 1990s, where before Aaron Peskin became supervisor, was one of his roles in fighting back for our neighborhoods. I want to mention Lan Chao's words in 2001 when he said, one of our 95-year-old Chinese seniors who had lived in 665 Clay for over 25 years, when he said, "I feel at peace now. There's no more fear and no more worries." I do want to also recognize Mr. Lau, the president of the iHotel Resident Association, who passed away unexpectedly last week. Today was his funeral service, and Diana Pang, one of my former students, sent photos of him leading exercise classes all the way to rallies on behalf of other tenants that were facing eviction proceedings. And it's with tremendous sadness that we have lost him as a part of our community today. But it is your family's work to continue to fight for a community that honors individuals like Mr. Lau, who get to live in affordable senior housing through their life with peace and security. So thank you so much for all of your work. I'm going to give the family a moment to say a few words, but on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, I commend the Lowe family. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Kim. and thank you, members of the Board of Supervisors, for this very significant recognition of Asian Pacific Heritage Month. It's interesting that for the first 75 years of San Francisco's history, this Board of Supervisors, in its olden days, passed some of the most harsh anti-Asian legislation, ordinances, barring Asians from certain occupations, segregating our schools, denying property rights to Asians. And the Supreme Court right across the street came down with decisions that barred Asians from testifying in court and from serving on juries, serving in any capacity of government. And those were the first 75 years of our California, San Francisco history. I've been practicing law 63 years. I became a member of the profession in 1955 when I graduated out of UC Law School. And I served on the courts 25 years from 66 to 92 and saw the evolution of many of the interesting things that went on in San Francisco from the Summer of Love in 67 to the changes in our drug laws, the changes that went on in the race relations with the changes that went on in the Vietnam War protests and many other interesting social events. But I see in the coming days, and I see it today, kind of a return of this of racism in a more subtle form, not in legislation, but in social policies and in social events. And this Board of Supervisors, I commend for being very, very vigilant in protecting social rights and human rights for all the citizens of San Francisco and all the citizens of the United States. And I think we must be continually vigilant in keeping this attitude for us to lead this nation that is going through this very troubled times. Thank you again, and congratulations for your very foresighted commemoration of the Asian Pacific community. I let my sons now say a few words.
And colleagues, I just wanted to let you know that we haven't gone halfway through the honorees, and we still have people waiting, so if you could please keep it brief. Thank you very much.
I will keep this very short. Thank you very much, Supervisor Kim. Thank you to the Board of Supervisors. I just want to make a small personal note that this is the first time that all three of us have been honored at the same time. Usually it is one subset of us that is honoring the other, telling jokes and stories about each other that are much more personal, all of which I'll try to post on YouTube later this afternoon unless I get a ransom demand payment or from a family of lawyers an injunction. I just want to thank you very much for the acknowledgement to say that community service is clearly a reward in itself. We all have a great stewardship and a legacy that we must protect and honor. I do want to thank my dad for instilling that in Alan and myself, that service is an important value and a community is very important, as is the legacy of history and lessons that have been learned. Thank you.
Supervisors, I also want to echo great deal of gratitude. It's very touching to honor my dad and our family today. It's very hard to follow my dad's legacy when you're a commercial real estate transactional attorney. Nobody congratulates you after you close the deal and say, man, that loan agreement was righteous. But I'm very lucky to meet folks like Chinatown Community Development Center and learn that an affordable housing deal needs a lawyer. And also a community center like United Players, Mission Child Care Consortium, that was a fun one, Supervisor Sapai. As a community center needs a lawyer, as well as I've recently learned the park needs a lawyer as well. So I just want to thank my law firm for giving me this opportunity for pro bono service, as well as our community partners and helping them keep San Francisco a city for all of us. And I can't conclude this without saying thank you to my wife, Jane. I know a marriage is both a journey and a partnership, and I'm just very happy that you're in this boat with me together, rowing. So thank you.
Congratulations to the Lowe family. And if you're going to do a group picture, Supervisor Kim, if you could take it outside so. Okay. Thank you, and congratulations again to the Lowe family. And colleagues, I'm only being pushy because it's almost been an hour and we're not even halfway through. We have at least 6 other honorees, so please try to respect their time as well in your presentations because they have been here for a long time already. Thank you all so much, and we're glad to have each and every one of the honorees here today. And with that, I want to acknowledge Supervisor Peskin.
Thank you, Madam President. Today is my distinct honor and pleasure to acknowledge James Q. Chan as our District 3 APA Heritage Month honoree. James, who is ethnically Chinese, was born in Vietnam, lived in Minnesota, grew up in San Francisco's Chinatown, moved to LA, and then came back home where he belongs again to live and work in Chinatown. And I'm so glad, we're all so glad that he has invested in his roots here because the stories he is uplifting and telling are really at the core of what makes Chinatown home to so many. James is a producer, director, and filmmaker at Good Medicine Films, which has championed several intersectional projects in the community, ranging from teaching Chinatown youth how to make their own short films, which was awesome to behold and be a small part of, to his award-winning directorial debut, Forever Chinatown, which was recently nominated for an Emmy in the documentary cultural historical category. James began his career as a SAG-AFTRA talent agent here in the city, and then from 2000 to 2011, he was mentored by Academy Award-winning directors Rob Epstein and Jeffrey Friedman. His producing credits with their documentary series 10 Days That Unexpectedly Changed America. There's a ton of credits, but Madam President, I will keep it short, particularly because we're going to queue up a little bit of film. James is now planning to do a Chinatown preservation project, which will be a series of films about this incredible neighborhood, amplifying the voices of our residents and community leaders. His refugee and working class background, love for nature shows, and memories of his mother's cooking are all interconnected elements that have helped to shape his storytelling, and he is often drawn to narratives that celebrate our individual humanness. I really want to honor James today for 2 reasons. First, the community has undertaken a planning process to preserve the cultural legacy of Chinatown, including creating an arts and culture master plan for the neighborhood that would help identify cultural assets, but also help arts nonprofits coordinate resource sharing amongst themselves. And this is a critical time for Chinatown, and James is really at the heart of this effort. And second, in addition to his work with youth, he has also filmed a short documentary about the mighty Community Tenants Association, which is screening at this month's Supervisor Yee referred to it CAMFest, and which features many of the longtime tenant leaders that have helped shape historic battles for tenants' rights, not only in Chinatown, but across the city, from the I Hotel to Supervisor Kim's Tenant Protection 2.0 legislation, the positive impacts that we see now. The film is called Power and Unity, and I'd like to show a quick trailer for the film to inspire you all to use your CAM tickets to go out and see this extraordinary profile of some of our personal heroes. And then I'd like to bring James up to say a few words, and I know he's going to be joined by his Forever Chinatown researcher, also Chinatown born and raised native Dorothy Kwok, and community member Katrina Shi to join in this special commendation. I want to thank you all. If we can cue up the film, Calvin, and then bring up James.
The struggle was more than just about themselves or their own building. They understood that this movement was about affordable housing for everybody. They have proven by being on the front lines of almost every major tenant demonstration, every major affordable housing hearing, every demonstration that has happened since they were formed in 1987. And they've done so with a spirit of coalition building. They know this is not just about Chinatown. They know that the larger challenge is affordable housing for all San Franciscans and all Californians.
Mr. James Q. Chan, come on up.
Thank you, Supervisor Peskin, for this incredible honor, and thank you to your fellow board for validating and pulling focus on your individual community members and my fellow API honorees. Regardless of our individual and collective political priorities, I think we can agree that we have one common thread out of many, and that is a deep, deep love for this city. My family and I are refugees to this country, sponsored over to Minnesota, and in the mid-'80s, we relocated to San Francisco, lived in the Tenderloin district, then moved to the Excelsior district, and then a few years later moved to the Richmond district, and later on in my adult, my first year that I moved out of home, I went to the Western Addition, went to the Mission, and now in Chinatown. It is Chinatown that served my family and I during my formative years as a latchkey kid, and it is where I've returned to. My love letter to the neighborhood is called Forever Chinatown, and as Supervisor Peskin mentioned, we were honored with the recognition of an Emmy Award last week, so it's a win for the community. Thank you. The Forever Chinatown film is about an artist and his artwork, but also so much more. It is a film that touches on the encroaching changes of a neighborhood, and it's also about the beloved neighborhood of Chinatown, and it pulls focus back on my neighbors, and those are the human pillars of a community. And I couldn't do it alone. And I have two of my team here who I proudly stand next to Miss Dorothy Kwok, my researcher, and Katarina Shi, our outreach coordinator. This recognition is for all of us, so thank you very much for this recognition. Thank you.
Congratulations, and again, thank you so much for your great film. Looking forward to seeing it. And with that, we will go to Supervisor Ronan.
Thank you. I would love to call up the amazing Howard Wu. If you could come to the front. If everyone could give him a round of applause. Thank you. Howard, I am so delighted to recognize you today as our District 9 honoree for the Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. I have known Howard for many years now. You are an enthusiastic and vital force in San Francisco, and especially in the Asian community of the Portola District. As a dedicated volunteer for over 30 years, Mr. Wu has given the gift of his time, energy, wisdom, and good humor to making San Francisco, and especially the Portola, a safer and better place. Howard has an amazing life story. He grew up in a poor village in southern China, leaving when he was a teenager in search of a better life, and ending up in El Paso, Texas, where he learned English and finished high school. He was drafted into the Army and served as a patrolman during the Korean War. During one of his leaves from the Army, he went to Hong Kong to marry his childhood sweetheart, Doris. They were married twice, once in the Chinese tradition and again later with the sanction of the U.S. Army. They have been married for 64 years. That is incredible. Have 4 children, Joy, Brian, Edward, and Frank, 2 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. And you look so young. I don't know how you do it, Howard. Howard Wu's life has been a life of exemplary service. Since arriving in San Francisco, Howard has worked in a variety of fields, including real estate, patrol operations, and department store management. Even while working full-time and raising his children, he found the time and energy to give back to his community. For 30 years, Howard took up a leadership role by volunteering in organizations both in Chinatown and the Portola, including the Asian and Pacific Islander Forum for 8 years and Community Police Advisory Board for more than 8 years. He has been an advocate for the most vulnerable members of his community. His work includes, for example, translating public safety information to Cantonese, speaking residents, and connecting public services to the often isolated Portola residents. He even brings his own flyers to community meetings that he makes himself to ensure that the monolingual Portola residents are safe when walking home at night. Howard, your smile and your charm light up every single room. Your commitment, skill, and infectious humor have helped build a great sense of community and belonging to all the residents of the Portola. You are irreplaceable, and we are eternally grateful for your contributions to San Francisco and especially the Portola neighborhood. Congratulations.
Thank you, Supervisor. It's my honor to be here. Thank you very much. On my day, when I go to school, I don't learn how to make speeches. But I am a doer. I do everything you ask me to do. When I could do it, I do it. Okay? So I make it short. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wu, and again, congratulations. Now I'd like to recognize Supervisor Safai.
Thank you, Madam President. it's always wonderful. These days are always so wonderful. We hear about so many talented and committed and dedicated people to the city of San Francisco. I'm going to continue the theme that Supervisor Tang and I had earlier today, and it's in the theme of supporting those that invest their life, their blood, sweat, and tears into promoting small businesses. The person that I'd like to honor today, and am honoring, is Jungin Aina Lee. Aina's story is similar to so many who have immigrated to San Francisco. Aina was born in 1981 in Seoul, South Korea, where she grew up with her mom, Bangran An, her dad, Hee-san Lee, and brother, Haimun Ryan Lee. After graduating high school, she moved to Idaho to study English in 2000, not knowing anyone, as many immigrants do. She fell in love with the United States and moved to Utah to continue her education, ultimately deciding to relocate to San Francisco, where she attended the Academy of Art to study graphic design. Upon graduating from the Academy of Art, Aina moved her brother and her mother to the United States in 2008. Again, as many strong immigrant families do, there's always one person that sponsors the rest, and Aina was the trailblazer and the one that paved the way for her family. And then just 2 years ago, Aina's father was able to join the entire family. So she reunited her entire family. Aina is a former art director and graphic designer who worked advertising for about 5 to 6 years and then decided to switch to her passion, culinary arts, opening her first restaurant, the Bibam Bar in the Financial District, in 2013. And what I'm so proud to say is that Aina took the risk and opened up a restaurant in the Excelsior District on our Mission Corridor in one of our vacant storefronts. Again, investing her hard money in blood, sweat, and tears, the first restaurant serving Korean cuisine ever located in District 11. Her brother Ryan is the head chef. The menu is filled with recipes created and inspired by her mother's original recipes and tradition staples of banchan, kimchi, sochu, and I'm not going to say the last one because I'll mispronounce it, but maki goli. How is it, Jane? Makgeolli. All right. Aina's newest restaurant, Matko, opened on One Market just a few months ago. So she really is a trailblazer, opening all over San Francisco. Thank you to Aina for sharing your love of Korean heritage through design and culinary arts. And I proudly honor you today as the District 11 and Excelsior representative during APA Heritage Month of 2018. Please come forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Safai, and thank you, San Francisco. I'm very honored to be here receiving this special Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month, celebrating with my family here. Thank you so much. I actually was going to explain my life, my journey in America, but you did everything, so I can make it short. So my dream has been on one thing since I landed America, year 2000. It was to live with my family together in America. But I just did not know how and when it could happen. But after Bibimbap, that opened the opportunity for me to plan something for my family. And I asked my brother Ryan here, a couple of years later, would you come work with me? And he said yes. And a year later, I asked my mom, Mom, would you join? Of course. That's how it happened, and now we're all together. And so Hwaro and Excelsior it means a lot to me because it's a dream come true. It's a place where me and my family can get together and create a new cuisine and talk about how we can, spread the love to Korean food to other people, what we can offer. So the dream came true at Hwaro, actually. So thank you for giving me opportunity in this beautiful neighborhood. And this is one of the most friendly neighborhood, I think, in San Francisco. So that's good. And I just opened, and I just had my third baby in One Market 7 weeks ago. And I plan to continue to have more babies. So without my family's sacrifice and immense love and support, I wouldn't be here. I really want to take this opportunity to thank my mom, especially been my inspiration, my forever support. You taught me the Korean woman's brutal work ethic. So thank you so much for that. And and also today, it happened to be in Korea, Parents' Day, May 8th. So thank you, my father and my mother, for making me 30-some years ago and putting me out in this beautiful world. Let's have some more fun to spread the love of Korea. Thank you.
Thank you. And we know a little bit about the Korean work ethic on this board, so thank you very much. All right, Aina.
Congratulations again. Okay, next up, Supervisor Sheehy.
So it is my great honor to recognize today Takami Craddock. So Takami, if you want to come up. She is founder and director of the Mobu Dance Studio located in Noe Valley. And her program, Dance Esteem, is just amazing. I think, in fact, if you guys talk to some of your constituents, you will be surprised how many kids have gone through her program over the last 21 years. Literally thousands. Kids start as young as 3 and stay with her, many of them through high school. Many have gone to SOTA, gone on to Juilliard and other major dance programs. And what makes Takami unique, and just to be clear, this is a San Francisco jewel that is all communicated by word of mouth. I don't think you've ever run an ad in your life. But the community that she creates with her passion and her artistry, she is an extraordinary dancer in her own right, starting with her teacher, Sensei Sanai Hara, when you were 3 years old in Numasu, Japan. But what makes Takami really unique is the bond that she creates with these kids. Many of them will tell you that she becomes like a second mother to them. She gets them through the most difficult years of their lives. And she does this by maintaining their sanity, by having good, fun dance, but extraordinary talent is expressed and developed with her mentorship. I'll confess that we've been in the program since my daughter was 3. And really what she has done for my daughter and for other kids, you'd have to experience it to know it. The amount of time that she spends, she will spend hours with your kid choreographing their solo. Hours, helping them develop their ability to express themselves. I mean, when we think about who we are as people, the most precious thing that we have are our children. And to give your children this ability to express themselves, to be themselves, to feel great about themselves, is really one of the greatest gifts you can give. And what also is unique about Takami is that she is really an ambassador between our country and her home country of Japan. So not only when she first came here, she was one of the first people to bring Buto, this unique Japanese art form, to the Bay Area and ran the Buto Festival for several years. But she continues to do an exchange program with Sensei Sanai. And so she will take kids and their parents, if they want to go along, to Japan. Then the next year, the Japanese, led by Sensei Sanai, will come here with their kids. And they were just here for the performance. And the way in which she's able to make it possible for people in our community to really experience Japan in a unique way. Numazu City is not a gigantic place, but it's a vibrant, fun place. We had a great time there. You kind of get away from Tokyo and all these other places and really experience the culture and the people in a very unique and meaningful way. And so I really am tremendously honored to recognize Takami, who I love. And you will see mothers here who've come because of what she's done for their kids. So thank you, Takami.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Supervisor Jeff City, and the rest of the supervisors. Thank you so much. I'm so honored that, like he told that I grown up a small town of Japan, outside of the Tokyo, and I had a chance to come right after the college, come here, 82, and then probably I have no idea where we are. Just only I know San Francisco Airport, and then I went to UC Santa Cruz for the English exchange program, and then I took a taxi to go to Santa Cruz. That much I have no idea how far, where I am. Now I am here, my dreaming city to live. I always, after I went back to Tokyo to work in a company, I always dreaming about coming back here. And then now I'm living, and now I'm getting honor. It just kind of dream come true as an immigrant. And it's just kind of tear me up to just being here. Thank you so much. And then thank you for my parents, students' parents are here. Because of them, my program started 22 years ago, the Noi Valley Ministry, just a small, tiny upstairs studio. I had 3 students to start. And then now, like Jeff say, hundreds of the students went through my program. And then we just had a huge performance last weekend. And I don't know, I didn't know how much I have a passion for dance. Because of the dance, I'm here. And because of the dance, I know all of them. And because of the dance, I can teach and I perform. And I don't know, I just teaching students that art is something that communication to communication to different country people. And then I studied the exchange program with my teacher. They just grown so much from the experiences, meeting different countries, different cultures. And then I so cherish about their growth. And then thank you, Jeff. You come with me to Japan and then to see my hometown too. So I'm very honored to be a part of your team. And then thank you so much for everyone.
Thank you, Takami. I got to give you a thing. And we should. I got to give you a thing. And I do want to give a shout out to her husband, Gary, who's been a tremendous support.
Yes, because of him, I'm here, and he supports the best.
Congratulations again. And next up, we have Supervisor Stephanie.
Thank you, President Breed. I'd like to call up Tracy Taraoka. I think I have the most awkward spot here. So colleagues, today I'm proud to honor Tracy Taraoka as District 2's nominee for Asian Pacific American History Month. She is third-generation Japanese American and the owner of Poetica Art and Antiques, a furniture and art store on Sacramento Street in the Presidio Heights neighborhood. Tracy has a personal mission of creating a safe, prosperous, and connected neighborhood and commercial district. Prior to opening the store, Tracy was the co-director of Healing Environments for 10 years. She devoted herself to the work of comforting the suffering by creating beautiful and comfortable setting in hospice rooms, facilities, and bereavement therapy rooms. Tracy has also served on a multitude of San Francisco community boards and volunteered continuously for the last 23 years to strengthen community ties and relationships in her neighborhood. She's on the board of FAN, which is the Presidio Heights Association of Neighbors, Neighborhood Emergency Response Team Volunteer Corps, Richmond Police Station Community Advisory Board, and My Tree Compassionate Care. I first met Tracy when I was working for Supervisor Mark Farrell as an aide when we were looking for someone to represent the merchants on Sacramento Street. And then we heard about this woman that was getting all the merchants organized, and then we were so lucky to meet Tracy. Her leadership, dedication, and advocacy as the president of the Sacramento Street Merchants Association has been a huge benefit to the corridor and to the district. And I have personally loved every minute you and I have worked together on all the issues we've faced on Sacramento Street and what we're looking forward to doing now. You are just such a delight to work with. You're just, you exude happiness, and I love that about you. Your willingness to lead and organize the revamping efforts for the Sacramento Street Merchants Association does really set you apart as a leader in our community, and I'm so happy to be able to present this award to you today. Thank you, Tracy.
I'm at the wrong podium. Thank you, Supervisor Stephanie, and thank you, Board of Supervisors. I will be brief. I will tell you that my father, Thomas Akira Terioka, was 7 years old when in Seattle, Washington, they lost their family home and he was sent off to live in an internment camp. I will tell you that it was in moving around the country and having different experiences throughout my life where sometimes people treated me with kindness and some people treated me with utter disrespect, even as a child, because I was different and I was Asian, that I became who I am. When I was about 7 years old, living in Tennessee, the year of the bicentennial, somebody threw rocks at me because I was different and because I'm Asian. Growing up, I didn't understand this, but along the way, I met so many wonderful people who strengthened me and made me who I am today. When I had an opportunity to move to San Francisco, to become involved with this community, that was my dream come true. So I'm so honored to be a part of this place. Last night, I was at My Tree. Okay, don't cry. And this is a very special place in the city. It's the last independent AIDS care facility. I had the honor of donating all the furniture and art back in 1997, and it changed my life. And as I walked in last night, because a friend of mine is dying, and I walked in as just a friend, and just a local San Franciscan showing up to support a loved one, I was so struck by all my fellow Asian American, mixed race, diverse people who have been there from the very beginning of that agency, who are still showing up to take care of all those people who need care. And it's all of those people and all those merchants and all these people sitting here with us today who have been recognized, and you yourselves, that I am here because you have helped strengthen who we can be, and that's priceless. Those little rocks, that didn't really mean anything. They fell away from me. This incredible experience, that's what matters to me. Thank you so much for including me in today's presentation. Commendations. I'm so honored. My son Alexander is here. He's about to go off to college, so I get to share it with him. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, folks, last but certainly not least, Supervisor Tang.
Thank you very much. And if we can, I see Annie's clapping because she's finally here. We're saving the best for last.
Sorry, Annie.
So if Annie Chung can please come on up. Thank you so much for your patience today. I really appreciate it, and sorry that you have to go last. I know that many of us know Annie Chung. We all know Self-Help for the Elderly. She and her organization have been in these chambers many, many times, but when I look back at my records, I realize that I myself have never recognized you as a District 4 for your work as a District 4 resident. So today I really want to take that opportunity to do so. So, of course, we all know that Annie is our president and CEO of Self-Help for the Elderly and has been in that role since, has been there since 1981. And every year they serve over 40,000 seniors, regardless of their ability or income levels. And with a staff of over 500 and an annual budget over 22 million, Self-Help started in San Francisco's Chinatown and now serves seniors in 4 Bay Area counties: San Francisco, San Mateo, Santa Clara, and Alameda. So Annie graduated from Lone Mountain Women's College, which today we know as where USF is, and the School of Social Work at San Francisco State University. She also graduated from the Gallup Leadership Institute and completed the 2007 Leadership America program and a national fellowship program with the Asian Pacific American Women Leadership Institute. In addition to her role serving at Self-Help for the Elderly, I'm not sure if everyone also knows she does many other things, including the Parcel Tax Advisory Committee for City College of San Francisco, the city's Bond Oversight Committee, the Steering Committee of the API Council, and also the Board of Wildflowers Institute. And in her spare time, Annie is also a producer of a public affairs show called Chinese Journal for KTSF TV on Channel 26. Now, I know Annie from all of her work, especially in where Self-Help occupies the South Sunset Senior Center over on Vicente and 40th Avenue. Every day, about 75 to 100 seniors come for lunch, and it's just such a wonderful gathering. I mean, these people are not just getting food and nutritious meals, they're also socializing, getting out of their homes, interacting with other community members, and that is just so important. It's such a creative way to help seniors really, again, get out of their homes and interact with others. Annie has also participated in our Resilient Sunset efforts. She has partnered with DBI and is constantly working to get more seniors in the Chinese community learn about emergency preparedness. She spends time overseas working to support young girls in China by providing them with a good environment to receive a strong education. So I could go on, but we are just so lucky to have Annie as a Sunset resident, serving not only the Sunset District, but also everyone citywide, as well as in our entire Bay Area. So on behalf of our Board of Supervisors, I'd like to thank you, Annie, and your team, your staff. I think some of them might be here today. If you want to stand up as well, so we could acknowledge your presence here. So thank you so much, Annie, for all that you've done for so many years and for so many people in our communities.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Supervisor Tang. And thank you, members of the Board of Supervisors. When Katie called me and said she's going to be honoring me for API Heritage Month at the Board of Supervisors, I immediately thought that I'm going to bring a couple of my colleagues, and this honor is not just for me, like many of the honorees said so already, because Self-Help needs many, many people's support. First of all, the Board of Supervisors, our mayor, and our decision makers in the city. But most of all, every day, day in and day out, with very low wage and not quite as good benefits as other city employees get, our nonprofit workers, take care of the 45,000 seniors really every day. So I want to thank Winnie, who represents all the programs at Self-Help. She's our director of programs. And of course, Josephine Ma, who's our fund development director, who raises all the money to supplement our city budget. And also Katerina Lai, who's our fundraising associate, and she does all the social media and all our publications. So with all of the staff at Self-Help, we're able to do the job. But I'm here today to thank not just Katie for this great honor, but really for the tremendous support and friendship that you have given our seniors in the Sunset over many, many years. Last year, a member of our board of directors and her family decided to donate a small property to Self-Help. It's a small house, 2-bedroom house in the Sunset area, and we couldn't really make it work as senior housing. So I went to Katie and said, Katie, over the years, our South Sunset Center has so many seniors every day that were really bursting at the seams, wall to wall. And is it possible for you to help us either build a half a story up or maybe 5 feet wider so that we could add another 20, 30 elderly? And Katie listened and listened to the needs of the seniors. And this year, she brought us this wonderful news that she found some money so that with this donated property, we could now expand it. And at the end of next year, we'll be able to open our second senior center for the Sunset residents. So thank you for this great gift, Katie, that you brought to our elderly. And as I reflected on the work that I've done at Self-Help and also in San Francisco, I thought of also each of your work. Day in, day out, you listen to us. We come marching in sometimes with our seniors, demanding funding, demanding your attention, asking for affordable housing and everything else. But you listened and you never get mad. And sometimes, like us, probably working in the trenches, you wonder, what's all this leading and what's all this for? So I picked this very, very short poem, which I love, and I want to just share it with you today. It's called The Way It Is by William Stafford. There's a thread that you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about what you are pursuing. You have to explain about the thread, but it is hard for others to see. While you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies happen. People get hurt or die, and you suffer and get old. Nothing you do can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread. So thank you, Katie and supervisors, for hanging in there for all of us, your citizens, your constituents, your seniors, and thank you so much for all of your support and patience. Thank you, Katie.
Congratulations again, Annie, and thank you so much for your patience. Okay, folks, we got through it in about an hour and a half, and I just want to congratulate each and every one of the honorees for being here today, and I know that Supervisor Yee would like to make a few comments.
Thank you, President Bree. I just want to wrap this up, but you can see from the honorees today what a diverse group of people we have in the APA community, not only in regards to the different ethnic groups, but also from the professions that people have chosen to contribute to San Francisco, from judges, lawyers, people working in the community, to entrepreneurs and restaurant businesses, and just a variety of ways that our community contributes to San Francisco, just like every other community that we constantly try to honor in this chamber. So it's been an honor today for us to be able to not only honor those that are that came today before us, but I want to thank all my colleagues for selecting such fine representatives from the APA community, and to see that there's 4 of us in this chamber representing the APA community is something that I didn't grow up with, and I'm proud that we are there today. Thank you very much, President Bree. Thank you very much, audience.
Thank you, Supervisor Yee. And again, congratulations to all the honorees. We will now return to our agenda, and we left off with roll call for introductions. And Supervisor Yee, you're up again.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. This is really quick. Colleagues, today I am introducing legislation intended to promote a healthy balance of business types on our vibrant Ocean Avenue corridor, and to give the surrounding community a greater say in the development of the important neighborhood commercial transit district. Health services on the ground floor of commercial corridor tend to reduce store frontage and draw less foot traffic than certain other types of businesses. In response to concerns I have heard from merchants and others, I am introducing this ordinance that will create a conditional use authorization requirement for health service users that want to come on into the ground floor space on Ocean Avenue area. This ordinance is similar to an ordinance that was passed by this board in 2016 to help maintain the vitality of the Sacramento Street neighborhood commercial district. I look forward to your support. The rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Yee, President Breed.
Thank you. Colleagues, today I am introducing a hearing about funding and support for housing stabilization programs. As a city, we are planning for construction of thousands of new units of housing all across San Francisco, including a number of larger projects which will be entitled under development agreements. As we plan for these desperately needed housing units and negotiate these development agreements, we have an incredible opportunity to think creatively about how the funds generated by these projects can support both the construction of new affordable housing units and housing stabilization efforts that we know actually work. I hear from residents all over San Francisco, including many who support our efforts to build more housing, that their primary concern today is holding on to their existing housing. We know that the most cost-effective way to prevent someone from becoming homeless or displaced from San Francisco is to make sure that they are able to keep their housing. And while our current inclusionary and affordable housing fees have been a critical component of helping us build new permanent affordable housing, we do not have the same level of financial commitment to other housing stabilization programs which keep people housed. Those include our small site acquisition program, which purchases and stabilizes rent-controlled buildings, our financial planning and eviction prevention programs, which help residents with resources to get caught up on rent, purchase their unit, or prevent eviction, and our rapid rehousing program. I want to thank Supervisor Cohen for her co-sponsorship, and I look forward to a robust discussion with the Mayor's Office of Housing, our Economic and Workforce Development Department, our Planning Department, and Controller on ways we can leverage our negotiation through these development agreements to support housing stabilization efforts for residents in the neighborhoods where these developments are occurring. We can build more affordable housing and at the same time increase our investment in stabilization efforts we know will make all the difference in keeping our current residents in their homes and in their communities. The rest I submit.
Thank you, Madam President. Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam President, the rest I submit.
Thank you. Supervisor Fewer.
Submit.
Thank you. Supervisor Kim. Thank you. Supervisor Peskin.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, as you recall, last week we passed a resolution sponsored by Hillary Ronen, co-sponsored by many members of the board, to condemn the 28-hour detainment of Philippine peace activist Jerome Abba, who alleged inhumane treatment and torture at the hands of Customs and Border Protection in San Francisco International Airport. That resolution also called on our federal representatives to conduct an investigatory probe into the treatment of Mr. Abba. Today, I'm introducing a letter of inquiry to our airport so that as a legislative body, we can be more informed and educated on what kind of footprint Customs and Border Protection have at SFO, what protocols are in place to guide the use of the facilities for detention and interrogation. As you are probably all aware, this Thursday, our Budget Committee is actually being asked to retroactively approve lease terms for Customs and Border Protection at the airport, which is an important reminder that as a city-owned facility, while it may be in San Mateo County, it's property of the city and county of San Francisco. We have the responsibility to use our fiduciary oversight to ensure that we are not condoning any mistreatment of detainees or visitors at our airport. So I'm hoping that the airport can respond to the letter of inquiry before this item comes to the Finance Committee on Thursday. In addition, as the Central Subway project continues to lag behind schedule, generating ripple impacts throughout downtown and Chinatown neighborhoods and south of Market and to small businesses, which we've grappled with last year, I'm continuing to hear different sets of facts on the reasons for the delays, but also the specifics of those delays and how they will ultimately impact the surrounding areas. So I'm calling for a hearing to bring the MTA and the Central Subway's project contract team at Tudor Perini in to answer the same set of questions and see if we can troubleshoot together as to how to wrap this project up and get it online as quickly as possible. We just need to get it done, and we really need to mitigate the damage that has been caused, particularly to small businesses thus far. I also have two in memoria and ask that we adjourn today's board meeting. First, as mentioned by Supervisor Kim earlier, Mr. Rong Hai Lau, who was a beloved Community Tenants Association board member, an iHotel Tenant Council president, and really a Renaissance man in Chinatown. He was very talented, played the guitar and harmonica, sang Cantonese opera, wrote songs, and was the editor-in-chief of the Community Tenants Association newsletter. He was an expert of our anti-displacement history and stood strong and proud with seniors and low-income families citywide. And I believe he was actually depicted in Mr. James Q. Chan's film. He was a loving husband who always attended on-lock activities and CC activities with his wife, who survives him, Bi He Zhu, son Shu Hao Lao, and Shu Tang Lao, daughters Zhao Yan Lao and Lillian Lao, and 5 grandchildren. His funeral was today, and I want to send deepest condolences to his widow and children. My final in memoriam is another difficult loss for the community, and I'm sad to say that my dear friend and longtime neighborhood collaborator, co-conspirator, Lee Radner, passed away the day before yesterday. My office and I are very saddened, as are many, many in the community, and I want to extend my appreciation and gratitude to the many folks who in the last 24 hours have written in to extend their condolences. And it's really quite a testament to Lee's legacy and how beloved he was in the neighborhood. You'll all remember him. Last July, he came in here after he completed his 205th consecutive swim at the Golden Gateway Swim Club, the recreational center that he loved and fought to preserve over the past decade and a half. As you know, he led the 8 Washington No Wall on the Waterfront movement and did so into his 90s. But what was really special wasn't just his advocacy, but the fact that he started almost a decade ago, 8 years ago, the Summer Kids Camp Scholarship Program, which he was just dogged about, subsidizing youngsters from 5 to 12 years old from low-income housing, a lot of it in Chinatown and at the North Beach Place, to attend this recreational facility and participate in team-building activities. And it's my hope and intent to help this scholarship fund continue to keep his memory alive. He was also very active as a tenant in one of the cities, if not the city's largest rent-controlled housing complex, the Golden Gateway Apartments. And he was really just a sweet soul, super sweet to my staff, where he would make them dinners, and even though Sunny never had the courage to tell him that she was a vegetarian, he loved to serve her his corned beef and cabbage with hash. My condolences to his 2 daughters, who I understand are on their way from Hawaii, and the rest I will submit.
Thank you, Supervisor. And Madam President, seeing no other names on the roster, that concludes the introduction of new business.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please read public comment.
At this time, the public may now address the entire Board of Supervisors for up to 2 minutes on items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Board, to include the April 3rd, 2018 Board meeting minutes and items 18 through 22 on the adoption without reference to committee calendar. Public comment is not allowed when an item has previously had its public comment satisfied in a committee. Pursuant to the Board's rules of order, direct your remarks to the Board as a whole, not to individual supervisors and nor to the audience. Speakers using interpretation assistance will be allowed twice the amount of time to testify, and if you would like to display your document on the overhead projector, please clearly state such to SFG TV and then remove the document when you'd like the screen to return to live coverage of the meeting.
Thank you. First speaker, please.
February is Black History Month and Women's Month. This past 3 months has been a big-time historical situation, and I'm calling attention to all of you to realize this. During the month of February, instead of speaking up for Black History Month, I came up here and spoke about women who will be accommodated for their performances. I took charge on the grounds that I know that women aren't being treated fair in the criminal justice system, and I addressed the problem of rape kits, how I suspect that there's 500 to 1,000 rape kits that's not been tested, that's been sitting in the Hall of Justice for 5, 10, 15, possibly 20 years. And by the same response, I also pointed out that while watching the educational show of rape victims who were raped by Bill Cosby, I came across a female who spoke and said, if there's anybody out there that can help us, will you help us? As a result, I used my legal law library research skills and came across this law that's called continual injury. I addressed that problem because a lot of the information coming from the district attorney's office, they always claim that the statute of limitation is passed. SF viewer, please. Now, when speaking about Bill Cosby, he has just been convicted of raping those women by using drugs. Now, that information was taken by Rowan, and we had a hearing. At that hearing, I pointed out that the statute of limitations should not be applied to women who have been raped. There should be no statute of limitations, period. That demonstration was being watched by people in Sacramento, and as a result, there's no more statute of limitations on rape victims of crime.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. I'm Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association. On May 17th, the Budget and Finance Committee will hear the library, among other departments, and the library wants to install for about $3 million a very highly privacy-threatening technology into the books. It's called RFID, or Radio Frequency Identification Technology. This is a very serious privacy threat, and the Board of Supervisors actually rejected 2 years in a row any funding for this project when it first came up approximately 13 years ago. It isn't just a matter of simple privacy, but it's a matter that every person who uses the library, and in fact, especially any individual or minority group that is or may become a target of negative attention, those folks would all be concerned with what's planned. And I hope that you, as a body at the Budget and Finance Committee, as well as a whole, reject all funding for RFID. Let me read you from an Examiner article what the ACLU of Northern California said about this. A spokesman for the ACLU Northern California said in a statement to the Examiner that the organization continues to oppose the technology and urged the city to reject the effort. By the way, they, jointly with EFF, Electronic Frontier Foundation, sent a letter to the library opposing implementation. The ACLU went on, quote, RFID has profound implications for civil liberties in San Francisco, including for immigrants' rights. And it goes on, I can provide that for you. Do not fund RFID. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
Supervisors, when there is public comment is sacrosanct. So stop having the sidebars. I was very happy today that some of you nominated some beautiful San Franciscans. And I would advise whoever's the chair, like the occasion that we had today, that we set aside at least 2 hours so that we can do due diligence and respect these people, whether it's a filmmaker or is 3 of the individuals who came here who had to be honored. We need to afford them the right type of hospitality. And I say that because I represent the first people of San Francisco. Now I'm looking forward to representation of San Francisco. And I hope we have those who have empathy and compassion. Because realistically speaking, It pains the heart of distant San Franciscans to see so many San Franciscans living on the street of San Francisco, while some politicians are not there to represent the people, but more to make money. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. DaCosta. And before the next speaker begins, while we welcome your public comment, audible sounds of support or in opposition of are not prohibited in the chamber. If you'd like to express yourselves, you can use your supportive hands like that. All right, thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, Supervisors. My name is Kelly Cutler, and I'm a human rights organizer with the Coalition on Homelessness. And today we're here to bring attention to the sweeps that happened and have been happening since the 25th when the mayor had ordered sweeps in the Mission, but also we're seeing it throughout the city. And this is, there's so much evidence, and we know from just our past experience here, a couple years ago with Super Bowl, that sweeps don't work. People were down there, and I was there on the day, and people were offered 7 days on a mat in next door, which isn't a real option because they can't bring their belongings, and it's just not a real option. And so people are being shifted around. We've been getting a lot of reports of people where their tents are being slashed, and there was actually one woman who has autism who was in her tent at the time, and her shoulder was slashed when they slashed the tent. We're not just seeing this on Division, we're seeing it in other neighborhoods, and I've got some handouts for y'all. And there's actually some really good new research on it, but there's a lot of research showing the best practices coming from the Obama administration about how to effectively address issues. Right now we've consistently had over 1,000 people on the single adult shelter wait list. And then when the mayor is coming out and saying that people are service resistant, that's just nonsense. It is. We don't have the resources. And so one of the things we have is a safe sleep policy so that people can have somewhere to go. No one's advocating for tents or for encampments. No one's advocating that that's appropriate housing. But in the meantime, there's nowhere for people to go. And so, yes. And so I will hand these out to you guys. And on 2 of them, there's a typo, so sorry about that.
Thank you. The deputy will be there to pick it up. Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
My name is Tristine Bell. I'm a native San Franciscan. I'm also speaking about the sweeps. There's a lot of statistics I could say, but I rather speak from my heart and experience to hopefully touch yours. But I am calling to urge a moratorium on the sweeps that don't provide adequate, appropriate places for people to move to. But I'm native San Francisco, like I said. I went across the bay for a live-in caretaking job until that person passed away. And when I came home, I myself was homeless for a short period of time. And so it's just really inhumane to people who already have nothing to just say, like, pick up your stuff and whatever you can get in the next couple minutes and go. And then the DPW takes off the rest of their belongings to the dump. And then they have to start over and they already have nothing, and criminalizing them for sleeping is like violating their constitutional rights. And I would just urge that as a city that we would try to come up with more humane things instead of just move it along, but move it along to where? So affordable housing in San Francisco. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. My name is Yvonne Keene. And in regards to the emergency homelessness crisis, there is an alternative. And the alternative is not to have revolving doors of navigation centers. The alternative is to reallocate our funding to the vouchers called the Moving On Initiative, as well as Shelter Plus Care, so that the people that are already in the SROs can graduate into the luxury apartments, and then you can move the people that are homeless into the SROs. And that's a simple thing where we don't have to build anything more, but we could just use what we already have and implement the homeless into the SROs from there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, members of the Board of Supervisors. You all know who I am. My name is Sean Haynes, and I stand with my friends from the Coalition on Homelessness to talk about the encampment sweeps. I'm a native of San Francisco, and I've lived in virtually every single one of our districts, and I have been homeless myself. And I know what the experience of living on our streets is, and I also know what the experience of living in our tents. And I prepared a comment that is similar along the lines of the other comments, in that I was appalled when I saw photos pop up on Facebook with members of our police force showing up with shotguns and to hear and see the evidence of members of our community having been cut while sleeping within their tents. And because I have been homeless myself, and as a leader in this community, that represents having worked in our Human Rights Commission, I've created a nonprofit organization called San Francisco Impact Partners. So we also want to advocate for a moratorium on sweeps as to evaluate our shelter systems, because I also have an issue with the word service resistant. It doesn't take into account the fact that some of our shelters are challenging for our homeless population. Some of our homeless population, women, families, children have reported that there are issues with safety in our shelter systems. So a moratorium would allow us to do a number of things to evaluate what some of those concerns are before we directly enforce that people go into these systems. We can address those systems while providing additional resources that our homeless population can take a use of. Storage would be one of those, and that's what I will continue to advocate for in the city. Appreciate the time.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. John Lau, speaking as an individual, not as a representative of any city department today. I simply wanted to thank Supervisor Tang for sponsoring the resolution acknowledging Acoustic Neuroma Awareness Week, and for acknowledging, in so doing, the important work of the Acoustic Neuroma Association to provide knowledge and support to people touched by this rare disease. The Acoustic Neuroma Association, or ANA, strives to help patients and their caregivers as they navigate the confusing waters that often appear with an AN diagnosis, which is a benign brain tumor of the auditory and vestibular nerve. The ANA works to help patients better understand and cope with the many challenges associated with severe neurological damage that all too often comes with treatment meant to actually address the tumor itself. Such damage can include loss of hearing, vision impairments, balance issues, facial paralysis, and reduced or loss of swallow function. My own journey with acoustic neuroma was such that I was not able to learn much about the condition in advance of my first surgery, as my tumor was already almost the size of a golf ball at the time of its diagnosis, and within 2 months I had a craniotomy to remove most of it. But the information provided and network presented by the ANA have been important factors in helping to put the pieces back together after my initial surgery, now almost 6.5 years ago. The ANA continues to be a resource to me over a dozen follow-up medical procedures I've needed in the past 6 years. So an important lesson that I've learned in my journey, and something the ANA helps patients to come to terms with, is that recovery from an acoustic neuroma is a very long road, and in many cases is a road that you never really leave. The effects of brain trauma can be long-lasting, impacting on one's physical appearance and capabilities and on one's emotional state. But time, in the case of acoustic neuromas, does not heal all wounds, unfortunately, but some of Anne's difficulties, with a little luck and with enough support and determination, can indeed improve with time. Thank you for taking action.
Good to see you, Mr. Lau. Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Encampment resolution. To effectively and compassionately address encampments...
Excuse me, sir, I'll just interrupt you for one moment. Are you sharing 2 minutes, or are you each asking for 2 minutes?
We're sharing 2 minutes, if we can start now.
Sure. Generally, it's 2 minutes per one individual.
We're happy to go a little over, but
we'll make a special dispensation today. Please proceed.
Encampment resolution. To effectively and compassionately address encampments, the city has created the Encampment Resolution Team. During resolution ERT.
Recently, I overheard a word, felt the obscenity to which it referred, but the human removal that could not be obscured. I know the expression was meant to disguise this terrible truth in front of our eyes. Encampment, resolution.
To close encampments and assist remaining people to connect with residential programs. HSH is committed to addressing
Encampment resolution sounds like final solution, treating people like pollution, their homes now landfill contribution, leading further into destitution. Resolution. Encampment resolution is a euphemistic absolution, some kind of spiritual ablution, washing away the evidence of our collective negligence.
These include planning and implementing an encampment resolution strategy that includes input from all stakeholders, including homeless people and residents.
Human beings are not a problem we need to solve. It's the capitalist heart we ought to absolve and supremacist minds that must dissolve. Let us evolve from the greed that has come to exceed any moral creed and even impede our ability to lead ourselves out of this endless bleed. Encampment resolution.
Encampment resolution teams to ensure people from encampments do not return to the streets, creating low barrier pathways to services.
Makes my mind a craze because the reality that phrase betrays, well, we know it won't glaze over the outrage. The crime against humanity that is all this poverty, product of wealth disparity, is a dark reality. Our sisters and brothers
collecting
blaze,
input from the community
their
and
homes
documenting
raised,
outcomes from
and you
efforts
look sideways
in order
while
to
what remains is for you to appraise encampment resolution. Encampment resolution, it sounds like a final solution, treating people like pollution. Their belongings become landfill contribution, leading further into destitution. Just wait. There will be a revolution.
Resolution.
Thank you
My
for
name
your
is Ann
comments.
Bleetenthal. Watchers.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
My name is Fred Sherburn-Zimmer. I'm from Housing Rights Committee of San Francisco. I'm here to speak out against the mayor's sweeps. We see seniors evicted onto the streets. We see tenants who take ill-advised buyouts sleeping in front of their former homes. As a city, we prioritize okaying new luxury housing over affordable housing that residents can afford, let alone homeless folks or seniors or low-income people. These sweeps are obscene. They came with no notice for residents of the street, no relocation plans, no housing to move people into. Please do what you can to stop the sweeps, stop the evictions, listen to homeless residents, and try to provide some permanent housing.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Sonia Traus. I'm also here to ask you to stop the sweeps. I'm running for supervisor in District 6, which means I spend a lot of time talking to people about homelessness. That is everyone's #1 issue. And I'll tell you, people are not asking the city to move people from one place to another. They're asking the city to end homelessness by providing housing and shelter. So we have the money, we have the space. What we need is political will. And that political will comes in the form of telling the residents around Francisco Park that the city will follow the state law and build affordable housing there and not another park. Telling residents around Forest Hill proposed development that we have a real need for senior housing that's bigger than their need for neighborhood character preservation. For telling the Barbary Coast Neighborhood Association that the city isn't gonna substitute middle-income housing for low-income housing at 88 Broadway. The list goes on. This is a real crisis, but we have particular projects and city agencies acting like it's not. So please show this political will and end homelessness by building housing and shelter. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Strauss. And just for future reference, we will welcome your comments, but just refrain from any campaigning in your future comments. Not that you did today, but just to assist. Okay, thank you kindly. Next speaker, please.
Thank you. My name is Michelle King, and I am a District 8 voter and active community member. I'm here in support of the Coalition on Homelessness. I'm appalled at the sweeps that have continued to go on. Even looking at the numbers, only 6 people were successfully placed out of 126 people. What happened to those people, and what happened to their belongings? I'm calling for a moratorium on sweeps without adequate places for those community members to go. They're not homeless people. Those are our community members. With over 1,000 single adults on the wait list, we need to find a safe space for them to sleep while we're working for long-term solutions, including permanent housing. With over 7,000 community members on our street, we need to work together to create real solutions, not exacerbate the problem. Don't get me started on how wasteful it is throwing away brand new tents, used tents, and all of their belongings. I know a young man who can't afford rent on his paycheck because he's uninsured and his medicine is so expensive he has to stay on the streets. Are you going to throw his medication away that he worked so hard for? I know a vet who's working months to get his paperwork in order to get proper identification to receive benefits. Are you going to throw that paperwork away? Those are just 2 people in a large city of people with needs. That's what's inside those tents. These are people's lives. Give them a little bit of dignity. Let's stop vilifying our most vulnerable community members. And again, I just want to remind you, these are our community members. We're here to represent everyone. We all want to work on this together. We're not asking you to do it alone. We want to do it together to support our community and not villainize them. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Jordan Davis speaking for myself. First, I would like to thank Supervisor Rowan for introducing legislation around sexual misconduct and how it relates to city agencies. Frankly, it's long overdue. But that's not why I actually came here today. I'm here because of Mayor Farrell's sweeps of the homeless. Now, we can all agree that tents are not healthy or safe. However, we are in a housing crisis and people with nowhere to go need to do some harm reduction and to shelter themselves from the elements. And 7 days on the mat in a conventional shelter and having to give up their possessions is a false solution. Those who are pitching tents are making a conscious effort to avoid doing so in residential areas so that they don't disrupt people's lives. Their lives have already been disrupted enough. We need a moratorium on sweeps that don't provide, at the very least, a bed in the navigation center, and we need a safe place to sleep until housing solutions can be identified. I am also demanding that both HSH and DPW be put under a public oversight commission, like many of our departments, so that way they operate in sunlight, and I don't see any movement towards that from the board. And I also want to say, and this is really personal for me, whoever slashed that autistic woman needs to be charged with assault. And I also want to say that Mayor Farrell's speeches around this issue sound suspiciously Trumpian, and it has consequences far beyond sweeps. In fact, when I was homeless, I almost lost an eye because some tech bros in Soma attacked me because of the hateful rhetoric spewed by people like Farrell and Wiener. People here and elsewhere have gotten killed because of this. Are the progressives going to let Mark Farrell, a man who they appointed, mistreat the homeless without, at the very least, calling it out? Shame on you to everyone. The city must do better.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Melody, and I'm here to request a moratorium on the sweeps. Individuals who are hired and installed in these various quote-unquote outreach teams are allowed to be in the position of judge, jury, and executioner. It often amounts to nothing more than, at best, legalized bullying, legalized theft, and at worst, legalized emotional violence. These command center, healthy streets operation centers, and sweeps encampment resolutions are merely government-sanctioned rogue behavior. I believe it is a sheer violation of the rights of vulnerable persons without resources to defend themselves. These outreach intervention cleanups are emotional violence and is an outrage. It in fact increases ill will, while it exacerbates condemnation of people already condemned to and trapped in a no-win situation. It escalates the very problem it is claiming to solve while blaming and scapegoating the problem person for the purpose of using another human being as an object for their personal hostility. It unmistakably communicates loud and clear to the general public that it is okay to hate on homeless people. This is absolutely no way to treat a human being, and chronic displacement by its very nature is designed to destroy a human's resources, spirit, sanity, well-being, and destroy their life. It is inhumane and nothing short of torture, and I have no doubt that I am next on the list. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sam, and I work at the Coalition on Homelessness. I'm also a native San Franciscan, and I grew up in the Richmond district. And I'm also here to speak out about the mayor's sweeps. As many of who spoke before me have said, the clearing and sweeps of homeless encampments and homeless people is just plain wrong. We see families, seniors, young people, and adults who are living in encampments, and there really is nowhere for folks to go. And there aren't real resources or services being offered to unhoused people. It's really, really heartbreaking, but more than heartbreaking, it's inhumane and it's a violation of people's basic human rights. These sweeps have increased in the past couple of weeks, and we really need you, the Board of Supervisors, to speak out against these homeless sweeps that we have been seeing. We just can't hear silence any longer from the Board of Supervisors. We need you to say something that says, like, we think that this is wrong, we think that this is inhumane, to speak out against what the mayor is doing. So I urge you to stand with unhoused people, because we need to start addressing homelessness in a real way. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Hello, I'm Leslie Dreyer with Housing Rights Committee, also here to back Coalition on Homelessness's call for a moratorium on the sweeps. We see people every day, thousands of people a month come through our offices fearful of eviction because they know there's nowhere to go. There's no affordable housing. If they get kicked out, they have a chance of being homeless, and then they see what the city does to homeless people. Imagine getting, in 15 minutes, collecting everything you could possibly ever need to live for the rest of your life. What would you grab? That's all that they're giving these people. Mayor Farrell is actually going against his own terrible legislation, Prop Q, and not even giving 24-hour notice or shelter. So if I were homeless, which luckily I'm not right now, I can't imagine what I would take in 15 minutes, but I know I would. That's like losing everything. It's like, having your home burned down in a fire. So we want you, the board, to say something. I know it's election season, people play it safe, but we need this to stop. This is tragic. People are dying. So please do something.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. My name is Chirag Bhakta, born and raised in the TL. I am here with Mission Housing in solidarity to join the call for a moratorium on the current sweeps against our homeless communities in the city. The solution to homelessness is not criminalization nor dehumanization. It is safe shelter and necessary services. Let's get the immediate solutions put forth by the Coalition on Homelessness supported and funded, and then build housing with supportive services on site for current homeless populations. Let's move towards getting people housed, keeping them housed, and away from the current immoral, nefarious, and sinister sweeps. Mission Housing has been building affordable housing with service-based model for over 4 decades. We can point to years and years of data proving that housing people and providing them services where they live is better than literally sweeping the problem away. This city can and must do better, and as elected representatives of each district in this city, you must do better. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
My name is Jack. I work at the Coalition on Homelessness. Again, here speaking out against the sweeps. It's baffling to be here speaking to this silence, this reprehensible, irresponsible silence that one would hope this city was better than and these supervisors could move beyond, because there's so much wrong with how we're addressing homelessness in this city. There are so many studies all over the world that disprove the frankly illegal and inhumane way that San Francisco is treating homeless people. It's absurd. And I hope today is a day that at least one member of the Board of Supervisors speaks out, and maybe tomorrow another one will, and maybe we'll move towards some kind of acknowledgement of what we know is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name's Colleen. I live in District 3. I wouldn't have been able to go to sleep tonight and actually fall asleep if I didn't take the opportunity to share my disgust with the latest reaction to homelessness that the mayor and some city departments have undertaken. We've been calling them sweeps. What they are is forced removal of homeless people from areas that they've set up to be safe places to sleep, and with no other option given. No shelter, no housing, no, 7 nights in shelter and then you're back on the street. It's simply not a solution. And, I've been coming to City Hall for 13 years, begging at all different sorts of venues for more services, shelter, housing, healthcare, mental health care for homeless people. And in the years of the recession, we cut away a lot of our services. We cut away our drop-ins. We cut away shelter beds. To take away people's only shelter as a response to street homelessness without offering a real solution is not a real response. It's not a response that anybody should be proud of. And going further, it's a response that demands action, because what we should be doing is spending our time and resources on solutions that could actually help people move into stability and out of poverty. And what's happening over the past few weeks with the response to homeless people in tents in the North Mission District is the exact opposite.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Hello, good afternoon, Supervisor, everybody. I'm a taxi driver. My name is Abdullah Erbele, 22 years in the city of San Francisco. All my friends, they got the medallion, free medallion for 20 years. And they used to lease it to the drivers for $3,000, and they don't work. They don't work. They make money, and they are home with the family, with the kids, with everybody, relaxing as a retirement from 20 years ago. And the city of San Francisco, they sold us a medallion for $250,000. They engage us with a big bill, 250 plus interest, high rate interest. And, it's just, cost us difficulty. We're still suffering. We still, I paid almost $100,000 for cars to lease the medallion from the company. I give the cab companies over $1 million. I have receipts. I have everything. I support the city. I have 4 parking tickets in 22 years. I'm an excellent driver, 0, and I deserve retirement. Actually, by the way, we stranded, and the city of San Francisco doing wrong, as my grandfather says, when something wrong, people complain. When they complain, when they have a good people in the government, they should, reverse, they should help you out. So we need from the city to reverse the money back to pay off our loans because we deserve a free medallion. Please, please, please do that for us. We thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Thank you, Supervisor and Commission. I'm the cab driver. I bought the medallion 646, $250,000. I don't make money, even pennies right now. I pay the whole amount of the money and against the home. I put the loan on my home. I pay all that money. Right now, I not make a single penny. Uber and Lyft, they crash our business. They're doing the same business, but they're not following the same laws. City need to make a same law for everybody because they have no permit, no license, no commercial plate, no commercial license, and we have everything, city permit, everything. This is injustice for us. Please, save the cab industry. We're losing million dollars. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. My name is Khalid Malik. I've been driving a cab in more than 18 years in San Francisco. I bought a medallion like 4.5 years ago. So the business is getting worse and worse, and then the Uber and Lyft are killing us, and it's very hard for us to, I have 8 people living at home, so how can we make them, make a living, And like $250,000 is a lot of money. They charge us. It's very unfair. They sold the MTA, some people $125, some people free, and they charge us $250,000. Like I bought a 929 medallion. So is making the people, taxi driver, like sick, and some of people are killing. I know that my followers, they, because they cannot, afford the payments, and they're becoming like homeless, and they're becoming sick, and they're dying. And nobody cares what's going on in the city, and the too many Uber pool, and, they're giving the ride for, very cheap. They already crashed the economy. So if the cab driver is very hard. If they work like 14 hours, and they take like $80, $90 at home, how can we, the support our family, and then we invested the money? My humble request, please, the MTA, and, make us the free for everybody, the medallion. Give us our money back, and then we can have a comfortable life. Because we're serving the city like more than 18 years, and we're getting this reward. Our followers are getting, sick, and they're dying, and they're becoming homeless. This is, I think, is a very cruel thing. For God's sake, please, try to solve this problem. Otherwise, the cab drivers is gonna be, they're gonna die. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Hi, everybody. I think more than 2 months, you guys have been kept hearing about the taxi issue. It's not going to go away unless something has been done. In one pond that we are at $250,000, the one is $125,000, the other one is for free. And then on top of that, the SFMTA is rewarding the cab companies for the medallions for $600. The cab companies are giving those medallions to long-term lease for $2,000. And that's unfair. We want you to help us out to do everything square. And we want our money back. We don't want to end up homeless or seeking for a shelter. Before we come to the homeless, please help us. And all we want is our own money that we have given. And SFMT was in a dire situation when they took the money from us. They were in a deficit about $25 million, but they have collected from us about more than $100 million. So now we are in that situation. They should refund our money back, and they take their medallions and they can give it to whoever they think, the angels, or they're waiting for their medallion. But please bail us out. This is a kind of a slave labor. We are forced to do that labor upon $5 an hour, whereas this board have already declared that the minimum is a 15. But you can check that all the taximeters, we are not making than $5 to $6 an hour. And that's not fair. Investment of $300,000, and we refuse to serve that.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Emily Coogan, and this is my son, Bert. And we too are here to talk about the violent removal of people from the streets, and that's unacceptable. I personally am lucky enough that it hasn't, homelessness hasn't affected me directly, other than having to walk past the suffering when I leave my apartment. But yeah, trying to push it out of the way is a completely unacceptable solution and a human rights violation. And I think that this city needs to look really carefully at what it's doing, trying to bring in educated young workers like myself and my husband, while simultaneously refusing to grow and criminalizing people who have lived here for a long time. And you guys are creating a class dynamic and other problems by doing that, and it's not okay to choose us instead of them, and I won't stand for it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, folks. God bless you. Love the city, love you guys. I'm Pastor Evan Prosser of the Homeless Church. My wife April and I have been working with the homeless for 24 years. We began by living on the streets for 7 years with the folks to know what was really going on out there. And someone gave us a home, and we have 10 homeless people living there. And we go out on the streets and do a lot of things. Jesus said, and Moses said, you will always have the poor with you. And the Lord leaves the homeless and the poor among us to see our reaction. What are we going to do? Well, we as government, we as church, we as individuals. And I want to very simply challenge you. Face the need. I'm calling you individually to face the need. I'm calling you as city representatives to face the need. The need is the suffering people on the street. And they're outside your doors, and these doors, you move them off Civic Center. I know because I go out there every Thursday and feed people. They're no longer there, but they're still somewhere. Face the need.
Thank you for your comments. Before Ms. Friedenbach speaks, are there any other members of the public who'd like to address the board during general public comment? Please come to your right, near the windows. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. Jennifer Friedenbach, Coalition on Homelessness. I just want to start off reading a quote that was made by Mayor Farrell at the beginning of these sweeps that started happening about 3 weeks ago. So at some point here, after months of trying, there's a service-resistant population that just wants to be there. Again, this is a population that contributes to the crime, to the arson, to the rapes, to the additional public safety issues. So Farrell made this statement very similar to a statement made by Trump about Mexican people being rapists. It was a class-based statement about a group of people who are disproportionately people of color, disproportionately people with disabilities, disproportionately members of the LGBT community. And there was not a lot of outcry from members of this body in response to that. And that is really disappointing. We'd like to see a lot more outcry against that and against the sweeps that are happening. As a woman who talks to a lot of other women who are out there on the streets, and there's a lot of women out there, what we hear from them is that they're really disgusted by the use of their rapes by politicians in this way to make them less safe. We have heard over and over again from women that they sleep in tents because the men walking by can't tell that they're a woman, and they're safer that way. We hear again over and over from women that when they get moved, they end up going to less safe places. When we did a study with UC Berkeley and they did these in-depth interviews with women, what we heard over and over again was the same story. I got moved, I went to a place that was less well lit, and I was sexually assaulted. And we have that documented, and that is what's happening. So it just gets really gross when it's talked about in this way.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
How many dignity homes are in the bold new neighborhoods that we're developing by all these new buildings in our eastern neighborhoods? Last week, one of our gems, KALW, Rose Aguilar, your call, Naomi Prince, interviewed, she's an ex-financial officer, remarking about the remedy for the 08-09 financial crash. A remedy, government underwriting, refinanced underwater loans, mortgages. The advantage, keep people in their homes, stabilize the communities, stabilize even the banks, and far, far cheaper. Less debt. Bring our government back home. That's kind of what we're trying to do here now. Far healthier outcome for the communities, less costly, more efficient, smart government. Instead, we got the banks got a wad of dollars. They kept their bonuses, bought back their stock, starved villages, towns, citizens. Homelessness is part of this syndrome. Where do we find dignity homes? Who can support them? SB 827, Scott Wiener's resolution, statewide coverage of California's remedy for denser housing, should be shipped out of the state completely. I wouldn't mind signing a Scott Wiener recall. The wrong direction completely. We need to take responsibility in our own neighborhoods for our own communities. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Oh, it's just, this is some of the...
Sir, can you please speak directly into the microphone?
Okay, is this
Thank
going to
you.
pick up this image if I place this over here or no?
If you place it down under the projector, SFG TV should pick it up.
Oh, okay.
I'll start your time.
This is just some of the, this is what the housing looks like for 6,000 construction workers, temporary construction workers, temporary housing in Oslo, Norway. So I was figuring if they can house 6,000 construction workers, we should be able to house 6,000 or 7,000 homeless individuals just as easily. But I wanted to talk on the food service contract. And, would you be certain that any food service contract for inmates includes bottled water? Cartoned milk is calorie dense, but many inmates are physiologically incapable of digesting it, and jails don't provide water fountains, given that San Francisco has a high rate of tuberculosis relative to the rest of the nation. So yeah, it would seem obvious that they would do that, provide water as an option, but I'm not sure that they actually do.
Thank you for your comment, sir. Next speaker, please.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. President Breed, ladies and gentlemen of the board, my name is Winship Hillier. I am an involuntary psychiatric outpatient in this city and have been for 10 years, more than 10 years. I'm getting tired of the hypocrisy. I heard about, of course, the man who was tortured at the airport. We've all heard about that. And I don't want to minimize anybody else's suffering. And I am to become homeless in less than 4 years, by the way. But I have been tortured for more than 10 years. I have been treated with sodium cyanide in non-lethal doses. I have been treated with asthma-inducing substances. I have been reduced to lying on the floor of my rent-controlled unit, gasping for breath for hours because of my political activity, supposedly protected by the Constitution. And you are funding this. You are paying over $1 million a week to Citywide Case Management Community Focus to do this to me. And I've had enough. Madam Clerk.
Thank you kindly, sir. Just keep your comments formal. Next speaker, please. Next speaker, please.
Just wondering if we have quorum.
We do, sir. I'm beginning your time now.
All right, thank you. I guess I'm wondering, everybody's talking about the sweeps, so I'm wondering what are y'all gonna do about solutions? I think somebody needs to call for a hearing as to what is the city going to do regarding a solution. I think we could start by putting more toilets in our communities. Hello, hey Hillary, how's it going?
Sir, please address your comments.
I understand,
to the
but
board
I don't know if we have quorum because they're talking to somebody else.
This is your time, sir.
All right, but I'm just, maybe we could bring more toilets into the community. We could bring more sanitations like cleaning into the community. I'm just thinking we need more solutions. I'm asking that y'all actually do something to get to some solutions to deal with some of the problems in our community. It seems like a very violation of the Prop Q that the city voted for as these sweeps and no housing. So the lawsuits are coming, especially when they come mess with me. I mean, I've already filed. Hopefully you know. But I guess I'm just wondering, the sweeps, the lawsuits, it just seems like there's no protections for the homeless when they go to these service providers and get abused. The Shelter Monitoring Committee, the local homeless coordinating board, they aren't doing enough. I mean, it's overrun by service providers. I mean, we go to these shelters and we get abused, and it seems like, you know, this body and everybody else is apathetic. When do we get to the compassionate San Francisco that's in the manuals, in the advertisements for the people?
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to address the board? Please line up to your right.
Do we have 2 minutes or 3?
You have 2 minutes, sir, and if the lady next to you would like to speak, she has 2 minutes as well,
Oh,
up
okay.
to 2 minutes.
You can speak on the same topic. We're here because we run a homeless dinner and have done for 18 years in Chinatown, North Beach, and the Financial District. And we know that the budget is coming up soon and that all of you will make those important decisions on how to spend our city's resources. We're here to recommend highly that those resources be spent on the short-term rental office and on any enforcement unit, for instance, within the city attorney's office, that can closely look at the buyout law that you yourselves passed in 2015 and was put into effect in March of that year. So here's what's going on for us who see about 100 people a month, some of them the same, some of them different people, from those three areas of the city that I mentioned earlier, North Beach, the Financial District, and Chinatown. Many people are being bought out who, if we looked at the federal fair housing law and the requirement that people be accommodated, those people would not be allowed to be evicted. They have sometimes mental disabilities, sometimes alcoholism, other problems, but right here in the city we are talking about spreading, or rather giving more latitude to the conservancy laws. But what we are effectively doing by allowing these people to be pushed out onto the street is we're unconserving the very people who are already inside and deserve our help, deserve our assistance. They can be given that help if, with the city attorney's office and perhaps with short-term rental office and other ways of enforcing the laws that we have, making sure that these people aren't being pushed out. We know of a couple in North Beach who in 2016, and they're in their 70s, were pushed out because they were, quote, a nuisance. They were then bought out. Even though it was 2016, it is still not registered legally as required by law. They're not registered as having ever been bought out. Why? Because the owner, who we know of, has avoided the law. So again, it seems that there's no easy enforcement mechanism to help find out where are those buyouts being done illegally and pushing people out who deserve to be inside. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Madam President.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that like to provide public comment at this time? Seeing none, public comment is now closed. Madam Clerk, please read the items for adoption without reference to committee.
Items 18 through 22 are being considered for adoption without committee reference. A single roll call vote may enact these items.
Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, I just wanted to check in with you. I spoke about...
Which items?
I'm sorry, this is item 18.
Okay. And then Supervisor Fewer? Supervisor Tang? Okay. No other concerns with the remaining items. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
For items 19 through 22, Supervisor Ronan. Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai. Safai, aye. Supervisor Sheehy. Sheehy, aye. Supervisor Stephanie. Stephanie, aye. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Breed.
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Cohen.
Aye.
Cohen, aye. Supervisor Fewer.
Aye.
Fewer, aye. Supervisor Kim. Kim, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. There are 11 ayes.
Those items are adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call item number 18.
Item 18 is a resolution to declare support for California State Senate Bill 1024, SB 1024, the Animal Welfare and Violence Prevention Act of 2018, authored by Senator Scott Wilk.
Supervisor Tang.
Thank you very much. I know that my staff have made the rounds with various offices, so I do understand there are concerns. I do want to make sure that colleagues have also seen a letter that came in from the Animal Legal Defense Fund, which has been very supportive of SB 1024, and just wanted to make sure we're all aware of some of the corrections that they wanted to address. One of them is that that SB 1024, there was a concern that it would significantly increase fines associated with the various cruelty offenses, and the ALDF wanted to point out that it does allow for a fine to go up to $2,000 versus $1,000. However, it would still be up to the discretion of the court in terms of imposing whatever level of fee. And the idea behind the increase was to allow for more funding to actually enforce SB 1024 if it were to pass. Secondly, there was a concern that SB 1024 imposes a mandatory mental health treatment and that the treatment provider could have the power to send someone to jail for failing to comply with the treatment. I wanted to clarify that SB 1024 actually imposes mandatory mental health evaluation, not treatment, for only specific types of crimes. And those are the crimes that are most associated with underlying behavioral disorders. And when I first introduced this particular resolution, I noted that there was a study that found that in 90% of the cases where there was an on-campus shooting, that the person who committed the crime had a history of animal cruelty and abuse. So those are the two main points that we wanted to point out. But again, this was a resolution to support SB 24. I do understand colleagues have concerns. So it's fine if you are not in support of this, but I wanted to at least set the record straight for those two main points.
Thank you, Supervisor Tang. Supervisor Fuhr.
Thank you very much, President Bree. I agree that animal abuse is a serious issue, and I think that this is a well-intentioned effort to provide mental health treatment for the perpetrators of animal abuse. But I will not be able to support this resolution in support of SB 1024 because I'm concerned about the implications it would have on our criminal justice system. This bill would allow an increase in fines within the criminal justice system, which I already believe to be too high and disproportionately devastating to low-income communities. This would also give mental health care providers the power to decide if someone should go to jail for not complying with this mental health evaluation requirement. Judges can already order mental health evaluations and treatment, and they have the authority to revoke someone's parole if they don't comply. I'm concerned about handing this authority over to a mental health care provider, especially when we don't allow this for any other criminal offense, including child abuse and domestic violence. For those reasons, I must vote no.
Thank you, Supervisor Fuhr. Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you. I'm not going to be supporting this item today. I still remain very concerned about the broad language in Senate Bill 1024. This bill contradicts the legislation that President Breed and I introduced and sponsored, amending the administrative code to abolish criminal justice fines and fees. Senate Bill 1024 would add excessive fees, including a $2,000 fine to many offenses. Now, this $2,000 fine is higher than the existing $1,000 fine for animal mistreatment. Now, in response to the letter sent by ALDF, which Supervisor Tang referenced, the key thing is that fines and fees are different. It is true that a fine is in the judge's jurisdiction, in the judge's discretion, but the fees are mandatory. The difference between these two are, quite frankly, worlds apart. And the fee in California are added on top of the fine. So if the judge says the fine is $1,000, fees are automatically assessed that increase it to 4 times the level, 4 times greater than $1,000. I'm uncomfortable supporting this bill. I'm uncomfortable supporting the bill that fines and adds fines to people navigating the criminal justice system. And I just wanted to go on the record because I object to something that could potentially send more people to jail by compounding their debt to the court system. And so with that, colleagues, I hope you will join me in voting no against this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. So seeing no other names on the roster, Madam Clerk, on the item, please call the roll. Well, if you want to talk, you need to put your name on the roster. Supervisor Peskin.
Insofar as 2 individuals have said they're not going to vote for it, and this is on the adoption without committee reference calendar, that is tantamount to it having been sent to committee.
Second appearance, Supervisor Peskin.
Oh, my bad.
Thank you. Seeing no other names on the roster, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Ronan? Ronan, no. Supervisor Safai? No, Supervisor? Safai, no. Supervisor Sheehy? Sheehy, aye. Supervisor Stephanie? Stephanie, aye. Supervisor Tang?
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Yee?
No.
Yee, no. Supervisor Breed?
No.
Breed, no. Supervisor Cohen?
No.
Cohen, no. Supervisor Fuhr?
No.
Fuhr, no. Supervisor Kim? Kim, no. Supervisor Peskin?
Aye.
Peskin, aye. There are 4 ayes and 7 noes, with Supervisors Ronan, Safai, Yee, Breed, Cohen, Fuhr, and Kim in the dissent.
So the resolution fails. Madam Clerk, please read the in memoriam.
Yes, Madam President, today's meeting will be adjourned in memory of the following beloved individuals. On behalf of Supervisor Sheehy, for the late Miss Joni Wolf. On behalf of Supervisor Peskin, for the late Mr. Rong Hai Lau and Mr. Lee Radner.
Colleagues, this brings us to the end of our agenda. Madam Clerk, is there any further business before us today?
That concludes our business for today.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.